Welcome, everyone, to episode 2 of the Goal Hour podcast.
Yeah, with Camilo Yepes, Jared Johnston. We're still a little bit late on time to bring this episode to you. We're working on some graphics, some branding for the podcast. Plan, of course, is to go bi-weekly, maybe weekly. Instead of a goal hour, it will turn into a 2 goal hour episode because that's what
A
happened in the last one.
clinch.
We just got so much content to cover, really, that, I mean, you can't just bundle it all up into 1 hour. I mean, can't just talk about Cristiano Ronaldo losing in the Champions League. That takes up 1 hour in of itself. So I mean, we got plenty of things to dive right into. I mean, Camilo, I'm sure you're ready to go as well. I mean, Champions League right up to bat.
Oh my goodness, okay.
It was amazing to
Let's
watch.
start with the, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's start with the Champions League here. Let's just start with the first two games.
Yeah.
Barcelona versus PSG and RB Leipzig versus Liverpool. Okay,
Oh my
Liverpool wasn't surprised. Liverpool won.
Yeah, but to be fair, if you look at our last episode, after Liverpool winning 2-0, I think I went for Leipzig winning because of how unpredictable
Really?
they've been in the back.
I
So-
might have. I don't remember.
Yeah.
But you got like a beautiful strike from Mo Salah and Sane. Or Mane. I don't know why I
Yeah.
said Sane. So that was, that's what you expect from the champions of England.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even if they're
Um,
not playing in England, but is what it is
Yeah.
sometimes.
And PSG versus Barcelona.
I mean, it's
I heard
yeah.
PSG fans crying. Or I heard Barcelona fans crying.
See, it's a weird complex because I just saw a headline today that said Barcelona were like in their like 10th or 15th unbeaten game run for like La Liga.
La
So
Liga.
they've gone 10 straight or 15 straight without dropping points, like getting a loss or something like that. So like it's surprising to me because even when you see that stat and you see they're still in a Champions League place in the league, you know they're just not what they should be or where they should be with the La Masia talent and with the funding that they have. I mean, nearly in debt as well, but yeah, I mean, the loss to PSG for both of us was expected. I mean, even without Neymar, I believe he didn't play in this game. Kylian Mbappe is the future of football. Moise Kean on loan from Everton did an amazing job bagging a goal for security, and Barcelona only got a goal from a penalty. So, I mean, if you're talking about chance creation, that's not really something that you want to see at the end for the final score. But, yes, I think that was expected from the both of us, just based on the quality PSG has. They now got Mauricio Pochettino, former Spurs coach. So, yeah, huge for them.
He already won a trophy for PSG.
Yeah, I mean, it was that easy. He had the quality. It's just
He's like a Guardiola.
yeah.
So we don't really have much to say about that. Were you surprised by Messi's performance?
I mean, it's not that I'm surprised by Messi's performance, is that I'm always annoyed by the stubborn dependence on centering your attack around Messi. For me, it's the culture change is going to happen once he leaves. That they're going to figure out how to play a more cohesive style. Stop like going for a hope and a prayer from Messi in a false nine position, just hovering in different places. You need to have like, because what happens is when all else fails and they start double teaming or triple teaming Messi, there's nowhere else to go, and the team collapses and they don't have that creative presence or just a cohesive mindset on how to attack in the final third. And to me, like this entire season, their past couple seasons have just been all for naught because they need to hit the reset button, and I think that's going to happen when Messi either goes to PSG or Man City. It's got to be one of those two.
I mean, we're gonna be looking back at this episode in like a month, 2 months, I don't know how long, and we're
Yeah.
gonna be like, oh, it could have been one of those two, bro.
Yeah, watch Barcelona win the league and win the Champions League and come back in the second leg. I hope not, because I honestly
That'd be
think
horrible.
for their sake to, like, they're nearly in debt. They're going to be at some point. I think for their sake they need to start building for a better future, and that does not include Messi. But
They had Dest played horrible, fucking
Yeah.
and the front three didn't play well at all.
yeah, we like talking about American prospects, especially Camilo always is able to hone in on those prospects. I mean, American prospects and sometimes Colombian prospects as well. Sometimes, I mean
Yeah,
all the time.
you know.
So it's really good to get a glimpse of the international stage in the club stage as well. I mean, yeah, it's a great perspective to bring in. So not the best
No,
performance from Dest, that's for sure.
yeah, they were pretty weak. And did you hear Gerard Piqué was actually kind of angry with the front three? I
Yeah, he
think he
was
was
like,
yelling at Griezmann.
yeah, yeah. They had like an audio bite that the press like like translated and had on tape, and it was just him yelling and Griezmann saying, "Okay, we're all trying our best. Come on." But it's in
Yeah,
the reality, if you watch it back and you saw Mbappe, I think it's like like a totally viral picture now that it's Piqué like because they were playing such a high line, and Mbappe is getting past them, and he grabbed Mbappe's shirt like by one finger, and Mbappe was still like 3 feet away from him running with the ball. So it's like that's not anyone else's. That's not only Piqué's fault. That's not only De Jong's fault for maybe letting him get in behind, breaking through like their mid line or something like that. It's like there's no one player to blame. So obviously Piqué is angered because I mean his life has been Barcelona. They players like him and Messi want to see the team succeed, but like they have problems. They're real problems, and I mean just getting mad on the pitch won't solve them. That's for sure.
yeah, but I mean it's justifiable with Griezmann, Dembele, and Messi not really
Yeah.
backtracking at all. I know they're
hmm
they're in the front, but they still ought to
Yeah,
backtrack.
absolutely. Because I mean, you look at it, any team that plays a traditional 4-4-3, like a lot of it now is how are you going to play out of possession? How are you going to? You can't have such structural rigidity that you only stick with a 4-3-3 in defense. Because if you just play your three midfielders centrally, you're going to get overloaded on the flanks. So like, you need those wingers to come back, and you can see why PK has a point. They need to get back and help out on defense, but it's just one of the many problems they have at that club at the moment. But
Honestly.
yeah. But if you talk about a club that, in my opinion, doesn't have that many problems, you look at Sevilla with Dortmund. They conceded a loss in the Champions League, but I think it's a short-term bright future considering with all the older core they have in the midfield area with Rakitic and Papu Gomez coming in. I think they really have a creative presence to launch forward offensively. I mean, I think like I would love to see them make a run being an underdog. There are plenty of underdogs in this draw, but I mean, Camilo, you watch Dortmund a lot too. Breaking down the
Uh,
loss, Haaland is just
I
Haaland. I
actually
mean, what else
watched.
can you say?
Yeah,
So,
I mean Holland is. But I was watching Dortmund today actually.
hmm
Whew. Dortmund are. I don't know how they're doing so bad in the league, in the Bundesliga. I can't understand it.
well, yeah,
They're
I mean,
such a good team, like with such good players.
well, they lost their head coach, Lucien Favre, and then they brought in the interim, who was like their assistant or something, and now they've confirmed that they're going to bring in Borussia Mönchengladbach's manager at the end of the season. So, in some respects, while they have their interim guy, it's like there has to be something in the back of their head that's like, okay, we're going through 3 coaching changes in 6 months. How are we going to grind this out? How are we going to try to get results? And I mean, I guess they're doing it when it counts in the Champions League, but I mean,
I
in the
do want to say
Bundesliga,
one
they need
thing.
to get results as well. Go ahead.
I don't. I think that Dortmund may have a chance to make it to like the semifinals. Honestly, just
Think they
now,
have
like
enough quality to bring it in all the way though, because like they're a team that's been to the finals and really hasn't gotten the job done, always just being little brother to Bayern Munich. So
is that when was the last time they were in the final? Actually,
when they were with Jurgen Klopp, and it was the 2013 game. They had Roman Weidenfeller was their goalie, and it
um,
went to extra time, and he scored in like the 100 something minute. It was Robin, and like just
Kane.
such a weak shot. Like at the top of the goal box, Weidenfeller was charging him out, and he just tucked it, like just doinked it home, like a really light shot, and it was just symbolized the disappointment the Dortmund fans would have felt because it took like a good 5 seconds for that ball to hit the back of the net, but you knew it was going to be a goal. So like for me watching it too, I wanted Dortmund to win just because it's always nice to see an underdog. But yeah, that's the furthest they have gotten since. They're always a threat, And obviously, you look at the stats when they played against Sevilla with 34% possession, they're going to be lethal on the counterattack with speed. Centrally through Haaland and then Jadon Sancho getting back onto his game. So, I mean, they have to use their playstyle to their advantage. They can do it. But, I mean, if there's any chance to do it, I mean, think their time is now. Sevilla is not really, like, considered a powerhouse team. If you look at
The thing,
former results they might
if
have
I'm
had going out. So, yeah.
if I may, Sevilla has like a very old core,
Mm-hmm.
as you said before, some older players. So they don't really, most of them are slower, as they've lost their pace, right?
Yeah.
And with Dortmund having like very fast and young players, they can. I saw it today when I was watching. They have a very good counter press.
Yeah,
So I
that's a
think
huge
that's
thing.
how they can really play against Sevilla. That's how they have been playing.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a really huge element that I didn't even think about was how not only are they able to apply that pressure, but really break past their midfield line just because they may have experience with Sevilla, but they're not going to have that pace. And while you talk about relying on young players, something that Dortmund's really always done, always been having a great academy products and great scouting, being able to get the best young players in Europe. But yeah, I mean, if we're trying to like tease what could happen in the future, if Dortmund keeps doing more of the same, you could see them getting through. But if
Yeah.
I'm looking at more of the same results, I mean, again, another little tease into Porto. I
Oh.
this is one of the results that I was like, I was in class. I came back. I turned on uh, a live stream from I don't know where it was sourced from, but it was BT Sport, and Porto was up 2-0 into the half, or 2-0 rather. And that was probably my biggest surprise. But at the same time, it was both of us in the last episode that said we want Porto to win that first leg. We think they have the quality. We think that Juventus has quality, but they haven't really been organized. Even with Pirlo coming in, hasn't really done a tremendous job with the squad available. And Porto could have been one of the main teams to upset. Second right now in the Liga NOS. You are one of the, in my opinion, one of the main fans of Porto in the Liga NOS. Obviously, they have Luis Diaz. You could probably go into more detail on how they broke them down, got the victory, and how they're doing in the league because I was watching
I
only for 45 minutes, but I thought they did a great job.
I'll be honest with you. I wasn't really paying super good attention to the game.
Hmm.
I was doing something, but second minute in, Taremi scores, and I mean it was a good goal, but I mean I wasn't surprised.
Yeah,
And also, later on, I think near the end of the second half, or near the beginning of the second half, Modega scored. It
yeah,
was
he
like
got that in
first
the
minute.
46th minute. Yeah,
Yeah, so you have like them both scoring at the very beginning of the halves,
hmm
and I think that's just something that you don't want to see for Juventus. I don't really know what it means for Porto. I think it might mean, my only assumption really is man management, maybe, like, or not man management. I forgot what the manager's name is, but I think he just spoke to the players correctly, or he motivated them.
yeah. I
That's my
mean,
only guess. Yeah,
if I was gonna tell you the manager's name, I couldn't really pronounce it.
neither could I. I'm trying to learn
I
Portuguese.
yeah, I can pronounce some Portuguese names from the fact that my brother learn the Brazilian Sao Paulo dialect of Portuguese, Sao Paulo dialect of Portuguese. But if I go into some of those names with all of the different accents and specific letters, I mean, I can try, but it's pretty tough. But I mean, the main takeaway I took from, which is something that I really hone in on when I'm watching games for any team, was their defensive organization for Porto. Like, okay, so you expect them to not have much possession, but when they were playing on defense, they were up 2-0 until the 82nd minute. And even when Juventus scored with Chiesa, it wasn't like Porto was open up at all. They still had their structure.
No,
When like
it
they weren't
was.
they weren't pressing, they were falling back. They would play 6 in the back at times, play a 6-3-1. I was loving that because like Juventus just couldn't get through the block. They were trying to get in, work things out on the outside, trying to move them around, but really well coached, really well disciplined. And like if you see that result, I don't expect anything to change going into that second leg. But again, it's still close because Juventus scored the away goal. So that means Porto going in to the second leg would look to at least have to get one as an insurance marker. That would really hurt Juventus. But I mean, just looking at the first leg, I mean, tremendous result for Porto. Something that we expected to at least get a tie or a win for Porto because of how Juventus has been struggling. But Luis Diaz came on in the 60th minute. I don't know how much of an impact he had, but I'm sure with his speed.
Not much, I wouldn't say.
Yeah, I'm sure with his speed he could at least contribute to the system, but he didn't really get anything offensively going.
Yeah, but I mean, I think they got complacent after that second goal.
Yeah. Probably a huge part of the game plan. I mean, if you're looking at defensive pressing and like really disciplined defensive teams, talk about Atletico Madrid. And you talk about a team in the first leg that was so stubbornly set into their system that they didn't get a shot on target against Chelsea. It's almost as if they were just playing not to concede, but they still did in the end. Ultimately, Giroud getting that only goal in the 60th minute. It was an overhead kick. I only watched the highlight of it, and by looking at the length of the match recap, it's not like there was much else because talk about a Simeone
I fell asleep.
team. Yeah, if you talk about a Simeone team, it often puts people to sleep. I mean, sometimes myself included. I personally bandwagon, probably like about a year and a half ago, went onto the Atletico Madrid bandwagon after they beat Liverpool. Because I admire the way they stick to their system, but I mean,
it's similar
to
it's similar to Atalanta like last year. They didn't change their system, and they kept on attacking, then conceding like 2 goals against PSG, ultimately creating their demise.
Yeah, you get the same look at that, except the opposite end of the spectrum, where like Atletico will not change that system. They have academy talents like Saul Niguez and Coque who been coached through this their entire life, and it's just a way of life for them. And it's like, yeah, I understand. And when you look at Atletico, they never concede more than 2 goals a game usually, but you got to get a goal. You got to get a shot on target. You got to give yourself a chance to win the game. And now going into the second leg, Thomas Tuchel didn't really have to instruct his team to do much when they were just going to have the ball the whole time and get chances. So still within reach for Atletico, but my judgment of that game was they have offensive talent. They have Yannick Ferreira Carrasco on the wing with plenty of speed. They have Angelito Correa. They have so many good players that can use their natural abilities to try to get something going. But I think at some point you gotta at least improvise. Yeah,
they have such good forwards, and it's so disappointing just to watch. It's so disappointing just to watch all defense.
Yeah, you mentioned it when I was talking about Porto in a 6-3-1 out of possession. Atletico did the same thing, and they dropped João Felix when they were still tied at 0-0, and they had El Pistolero, Luis Suarez, up top, and it's like, that's not really doing anything for you. Get those 2 guys going together. That's the whole point of playing a 4-4-2, so that the strikers aren't really isolated. They can play off each other, and those 2 guys are some of the most gifted strikers in the game right now. João Felix developing and learning from Suarez. Suarez let go on a free from Barcelona, and he's now like one of the leading scorers in Europe, one of the best strikers in history, spitefully for some Colombian fans. But yeah, see if they doctor up anything different, but it has to change for Atletico. Has to change.
Honestly, it's just disappointing. I'm not a big fan of Suarez, but it's just, you don't want to see this from him. He's trying, but I think he's not getting the opportunity with Diego Simeone.
Yeah, that's really all that needs to be said for that game. You talk about you ever run into a
battle of the minds?
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, Camilo, have you ever run into a Lazio fan ever in the United States?
Is Reese one?
Yeah, I was gonna say the only person that I've ever really seen support Lazio, at least in FIFA, is Reese Kaplan, the one and only former AV League broadcaster, part of our broadcast team. Very good broadcast talent. We'll probably try to get him on the pod either in a future episode or some episodes to come. That's for sure. We're doing this all virtually to comply with COVID regulations and our physical boundaries, as I'm in Syracuse, New York, obviously, and Camilo's in Florida. But
Tampa.
yeah, Tampa's a great place to be. Gotta love it. I mean, the entire state of Florida gets clowned on, but it's a great place to be, guys. Take a trip
South
down there.
Tampa's.
Take a trip down to Tampa. But yeah, I guess when I play Reese in FIFA, I always go with my go-to team, Atalanta, who we'll get to in a little bit. And he always goes with Lazio. They have a really good counterattack with Ciro Immobile coming back to the team. He had an unsuccessful stint at Borussia Dortmund, and he's been great for the team now, Lazio. But they also have some good creators like Luis Alberto. I was blanking on his name, but he's been great for them this season. So even with that, there's still
one more person. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but we can't forget about the man, the myth, the legend, Milinkovic-Savic.
Oh yeah, you talk about a name in football. You talk about a name, Sergei Milinkovic-Savic. That's a mouthful. I mean, I think it's a little bit more of a mouthful than Mönchengladbach, but yeah.
No.
What a great name and what a great player in the midfield to really like. You talk about Luis Alberto as a creative force offensively, and then you get Milinkovic-Savic just box to box doing all the dirty work, doing all the little things right. I mean, really holds the team together, and they're playing under Filippo Inzaghi, who's coached them to be a counterattacking team. So I mean, going against Bayern Munich, you would think that they could be able to open them up, considering how high a line Hansi Flick plays with his team right at the midfield line. But I mean, it goes without being said that Bayern's Bayern, because they got a 4-1 result in that first leg. I mean, I was rooting for Lazio, but they've looked unstoppable since Flick has taken the reins. I mean, I don't think there's much else to say. I mean, you look at Lewandowski always getting on the score sheet. Leroy Sané, who you accidentally mentioned earlier, in his first season with Bayern Munich, doing a tremendous job as well, contributing on the flanks. And then Acerbi got an own goal instead of scoring for his team. So, I mean, that really put it out of reach for Lazio. But they were playing,
I'll be honest with you.
They were playing at home, and that's 4 away goals for Bayern. I mean, what's going to happen? I don't know. But what were your takeaways from that game?
I was disappointed in Lazari. I used him in my football manager. He was very good.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think he's a good player. If you put him in a right back position, he's good. But I mean, he didn't have a good battle with Coleman.
Yeah, they were matching him up as an outside wing back, playing with out of possession, really a back 3, but they would invert to a back 5, and looks as if Coman was just too much to deal with in that respect. I mean, if you think about guys on the left side, you mentioned Kingsley Coman, but Alphonso Davies is someone you also got to deal with. I mean, I'm sure that complicated things for him as well. So it's tough job for Lazio there.
But not surprising.
Yeah. I mean, something that was surprising for me, I guess, Atalanta versus Real Madrid. I was expecting an Atalanta win, which for most people would be that would be a long shot.
No, this is not. These are not the Galacticos.
Yeah.
These are not the Galacticos. So.
Yeah, playing against Real Madrid, they played only 3 days ago, and they hosted them at the Stadio Nerazzurri d'Italia. And honestly, I was really disappointed by the officiating. I'm not one to usually complain about it, but like it's the first leg of a game, and you send out Fremo Freuler in the 17th minute for a tackle outside of the box when Ferland Mendy was getting a through ball in. Because I'm going to just give a quick overview to listeners who have not watched Atalanta based on how they conceded that red card. Pretty much what happens is Atalanta plays with a back 3, sometimes a back 5. The 2 outside backs will step up to press the midfielders, and then instead of having the center backs play deep, Gasperini, the coach, has the man mark. So, for example, if you're playing with a front forward 3 and Rafa Toloi is on the right side as a center back, if your forward's going to stay at the midfield line, he will follow them to the midfield line, and the other 2 defenders will stay on top of their goal box. That's just the way it is. And when that happened, that was a really good design by Zidane to get his forwards to be creative and get runs in deep and draw defenders out. Was that exact situation where Toloi stepped up, and then Romero, who was playing through the center, was also pushed to the left side to mark a man, and Ferland Mendy, the outside back, made an inverted overlapping run, or rather an inverted run inside into that space. And what happened is Remo Freuler, the defensive midfielder, was tracking back, and he came across his body. It's just like a foul you have to take. But it wasn't vicious, it wasn't malicious, and ultimately the referee right away said it was a clear goal-scoring opportunity, got him a red card in the 17th minute, outside of the box, and Atalanta held their own for the better part of that game, nearly 80 minutes. And then,
Although they did not have a shot on target. I just want to point that out.
yeah, they didn't really create anything. I mean, when basically held back from the get-go. But
Yeah.
when they were trying to create something, it was like in lapses. I watched this game, so I was from the 30th minute, and pretty much what would happen is they'd really try to use their fullbacks and Gosens and Mele to try to like cycle play with an overload on the flanks and then try to get past them on the sidelines. But they got one really good chance, and then it got taken away as Varane came back and tracked back. And other than that, they just defended. And when we talk about like a team that's learned from their mistakes, something that they learned from PSG when they just went for an all-run-and-gun attack and they lost after conceding 2 goals because they weren't defending. Something Gasperini has really changed is allowing his team to sit into a defensive system and then build back into their offensive game. Problem is, they had 10 men and they couldn't play offense. And so it's just really disappointing from that aspect. I wasn't disappointed in the effort from the players. I think they did a tremendous job.
Very good effort.
Yeah.
Unfortunate.
I think, like, if Atalanta held the draw and there weren't any goals, we'd be talking a lot more about Real Madrid right now, because they got their away goal. They're still going to be
By a left back. By that, let's just say one thing.
On his right foot.
Their forwards cannot just score.
Yeah, if that's one thing you're gonna look at is that their forwards couldn't score. So I mean, if you talk about Atalanta with 11 men, I don't think they're gonna have 31 possession in the next leg. I think they're going to definitely be able to dictate the pace a little more. But
one big problem,
yeah,
for Atalanta is they're not going to have Freyler, and they're also not going to have Duvan Zapata, as he is injured.
Yeah, that's what I was looking at. It was an interesting play from Gasperini. Subbed him off at like the 30th minute, and then at the end of the game, like in the 70th minute, put on Ilicic, which was weird for me because I know he didn't start Ilicic because he wanted to bring up some pace to try to beat their line instead of holding up the ball like Ilicic is so good at and creating chances on top of the box. But then he brought him in and subbed him right back out after 10 minutes. It looked like they had a verbal argument / dispute similar to what Papu Gomez had, which is kind of disappointing for the guy who is nicknamed Il Profesor by the fans, the professor, the catalyst for that team. But yeah, a little bit disappointing in my view, but at the same time, when I look at the entire team performance, just the discipline the team had, like, I mean, it was really could have been much worse for Atalanta, and I think they did a really good job. I mean, one last shout out to Joachim Mele, who was a transfer only a few months ago, and Hateboer has been injured on the right side. He was absolutely outstanding with the system. You talk about Johan Mojica, Mojica, who was a fellow Colombian, who didn't really learn the system, and he was now loaned out to Elche. But
which is it's unfortunate, but I mean,
yeah. But Male's really been good in the system, and like I mean, Johan's obviously not playing Champions League football anymore, so
no, I mean
that's unfortunate for him. But when I was watching the game, I was really impressed by the movement from Gosens and Male specifically up on the press, winning the ball back, really dynamic in transition, and I mean, plenty of positives for Atalanta in this game. And even though Real Madrid got a 1-0 result going to the second leg at home, I think they're really worried still because they know what the Atalanta team can bring. I mean, that's my whole long synopsis of it. I mean, if you got anything, you can go right ahead. But obviously, passionate about this draw. But
yeah,
it's gonna be interesting.
I'm also pretty passionate about it. Kind of upset.
Yeah.
A little upset. You know, what are Atalanta going to do now? What are they going to do now? They have Muriel. They might have Ilicic
Yeah,
for
we'll see what
forwards.
goes on.
They
Yeah,
have
we'll see what goes
Sam
on with the
Lammers.
fallout.
They have
Mhm.
Sam Lammers. Who that? Sam Lammers.
Mhm.
This kid, I don't think this kid is going to be playing Champions League football.
Yeah, he came from PSV on a transfer
Yeah,
a couple
I
months
don't.
ago, and it's really looks like he just hasn't really trusted him in the system. I
I mean,
mean,
how many games has he played? Like, he's played 12 games. He's made 2 goals.
yeah, if
He's
there's
had
one
like,
guy that I look at as a creative force, it would be Alexei Miranchuk, he's played pretty well in the Serie A, but Gasperini really hasn't trusted him as a forward. He's more been like a sub off the bench to like really like change up the game. But he's still really talented with a great left foot. I mean, but even then, those guys like Lammers is a pacey guy. He doesn't have experience. And then you look at Miranchuk,
yeah.
not necessarily a pacey guy. He likes to hold up the ball, and he doesn't have that much experience either. But he's not going to bring you that threat in transition. So I mean, it's really tough to look at if they don't have Duvan. When I look at the red card for Freuler, I'm not really as worried because while he's really great in the midfield with Durun, Pasalic really after he was injured for a really long time, but now he's back and he can slot into that midfield role just fine. So
He also got a big problem missing Duvan.
yeah,
He's
but I think that's huge for them.
I mean, he's played with Muriel how many games? I'm looking this up right now.
Yeah, I mean,
Because I think him and Muriel have a very good I don't know what the word is. Like, they have a very good relationship
chemistry,
on the pitch. Yeah,
partnership.
chemistry. They've
Yeah.
played like 47 games together, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Internationally and club level.
Yeah.
So it's something that worries me a little.
Mm-hmm.
But
So yeah, I mean they have even Atalanta, and you look at Real Madrid, who should have more depth. Atalanta still has some options. We'll see how they figure it all out and doctor it all up. But I mean, yeah, best of luck to them for my own sake as an Atalanta fan. But Mönchengladbach versus Man City. I mean,
what
John
is there to
Stones.
say?
I'll say it again. John Stones. Even though there's Ruben Dias, but John Stones. I mean, this man. Another clean sheet for that back line with Stones and Dias. They only allowed one shot on target. And you talk about a Mönchengladbach team that wasn't really a huge underdog given Manchester City's presence in the Premier League because they beat Bayern Munich only like a month ago. They beat them 3-2. All 3 of their goals, interestingly enough, which I was talking about this in the last episode, they won the ball, they made one pass, then they scored. They were able to win the ball high up the field, press, and be able to be positionally set up in transition. That was something you would think that they'd be able to do against Man City that likes to play out of the back, but they really didn't give the ball up. They had 61% possession, Man City did. And Bernardo Silva is a great player as well from Portugal. Tremendous talent. Gabriel
Here,
Jesus got on the score
I
sheet
just want to
as well.
interrupt you for a second. Give me a minute.
Yeah.
Continue speaking. I'm gonna grab something really.
Oh, yeah. But, like, yeah, Man City has just been huge in all competitions, really. I think they're still competing in the EFL Cup. I think they have the final draw against Spurs, but either way, I mean, you talk about John Stones revitalizing his career against Ruben Dias, or rather with Ruben Dias. They've really formed a great defensive partnership, and we're not even talking about how they still have America Laporte on the bench. They still have so many options. They have João Cancelo doing bits on the outside flanks. Riyad Mahrez on the bench. I mean, this team has so much depth. They had Sergio Aguero injured for this leg still, and like, but I'd say the main pieces. I mean, if you look at their biggest difference from last year to this year, what lost them the league? They didn't have a defense. They had Fernandinho playing the back, and now you see Stones and Dias doing amazing things, and obviously Laporte still on the bench, who's world class. So I mean, obviously a tough result for Mönchengladbach to lose 3-1, but it was almost expected based on Man City's current form. But you would have thought they had a chance, but City shut them down. And again, it's Pep continuing to prove me wrong, being a tremendous coaching asset for Man City. But do I think that Man City will win the Champions League this year? Absolutely not. I will.
I
I
hope
will
that
hold
Man
true to
City will
that.
win the Champions League.
I don't
Absolutely
hope.
not.
I know that they will not win. I absolutely believe that. Even with the form John Stones is in, and how much I admire John Stones' comeback story as a player. But
No,
I
John
don't think they would
Stones,
win.
he did put a little bad name with Colombia. This is the dirtiest team I've ever played against. What is
Was
this
it
man talking about?
was it about the tackles or was it about the diving?
I
Or
don't
was
know
it
what
a
he's
little bit of
saying.
both? Because what we
I
talk
don't know.
about when we talk about cheating
It was a World
in
Cup game.
soccer, it's always about how South American countries dive
Hey,
more so than
well,
making bad challenges. I'm assuming
that's
he's
true.
getting in
Well,
at
no,
that.
but you have South American, like on club level, you have South American teams
Oh yeah,
tackle much
absolutely.
harder.
Yeah.
They tackle much harder, yeah. So, I mean,
I mean, you
but
talk
I'd say
about
he's
like a
wrong.
guy like Davinson Sanchez, who,
Bruh.
you know, they're not like all these academy prep players that get all of the benefits of playing through systems and world class training facilities. I mean, this guy's born in the trenches. You look at Davinson Sanchez, or the record transfer fee for Tottenham Hotspur, hasn't really panned out right now, but
Well,
you
at the
got you
time.
got plenty of Colombians and like other yeah, in 2017 or whenever he went. But you got plenty of Colombians and other South Americans doing bits, really drawing upon their different background and just a fighter's spirit. And
Oh, let me tell you
Davinson
one thing.
Sanchez really embodies that. Maybe not as much the smarts on the pitch, but he's really a fighter out there who has all the gifted physical abilities for sure.
Exactly. I mean, even Mina.
Oh yeah,
Mina
absolutely.
especially. You hear the story about how he used to go to his football training on the back of trucks in Colombia, and
hmm
now he's playing for under one of the biggest coaches ever,
Yeah,
biggest
like
managers ever.
I mean, we'll get into the Premier League later, but just a quick touch on like Everton's future. They're not only building the new stadium. Star fullback Luca Digne signed a 5-year contract. Ancelotti's going to be there. Richarlison up top, James Rodriguez. They got something to build towards, and they're always frowned upon by the Liverpool faithful because they always see them as the little guy, team that hasn't won trophies, the team that's never good enough. But I mean,
Although you
I
do
think.
have to remember they've won the top league of England before.
hmm But I mean, I think the Toffees have something to build towards. I mean, when we talk about South American talents, love to see Yuri Mina getting action. Love to see Davinson Sanchez fighting for his place. Love to see James Rodriguez finally get game time. So I mean, that's
Oh,
huge. I mean,
also,
that's huge.
if we
That's for
will
sure.
talk about South American action,
Yeah.
I just want to touch really quickly on. Let's just start this talk on the Bundesliga.
Oh yeah, yeah. Why not? Go ahead.
Okay, so I was watching Bundesliga today, and they had a super sub. Super sub today, I tell you.
Yeah.
They Borussia Dortmund subs on Rainer,
Yeah. Rainer Jesus or
and
Jesus.
I'm not sure what his
It's like
name is, but
Jesus,
he's
but
on
I don't
loan
know
from
the actual pronunciation.
Real Madrid, and they sub him on for I forgot who, but he scores right as the right as he comes on,
Mhm.
like first play.
Yeah.
It's I mean it's just something good to see.
Mhm.
Um, I mean he decided he's stay at Borussia Dortmund to fight for a place, and I mean I can see him fighting. He scored like very quickly, super sub.
Yeah.
I was impressed by him.
Yeah. Rainer Jesus Carvalho from Brazil. He
Yeah,
is
I
on
mean,
loan from Real Madrid, Castilla. So he's played in the Castilla system, and then he had a little bit of a senior bout, but Dortmund was like, "Hey, we think you're a really good talent," and he's proving some worth. It's not like he's gonna get into that Real Madrid team with all of that old experience that they have with Luka Modric, Toni Kroos, Casemiro, who's huge for that team as well. But yeah, I mean, doing bits for Borussia Dortmund, that's huge. especially with the young core that they have and the young culture they have around that club. But yeah, if you're talking about
What you love to
Bundesliga,
see.
yeah, if you're talking about Bundesliga, I guess we'll continue to go up on it. I mean, we've been praising Dortmund not only with the results but all of the talent they have. I mean, if you want to talk about Mino Raiola saying that there's 5 teams in the hunt for Erling Haaland, an eminent transfer's incoming. So this looks like if Dortmund's trying to win the Champions League, their window is right now or next year because Haaland's going to have to leave soon. But not really doing that well in the league. While they're only
No,
in fifth place, I mean,
they've
huge
won one
points
game
drop
since we
off.
last spoke. They've won
Yeah,
one game since we last spoke.
and that's nearly
Tied
a
another.
month. Nearly a month, like 3.5 weeks. So
Yeah, it was so. It's something disappointing to see,
I
but
mean, yeah,
I
absolutely.
wouldn't say it's surprising. They lost against Freiburg.
Mhm.
Freiburg. They tied with Hoffenheim, which I was pretty surprised by.
Mhm.
They beat Schalke, and actually no,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I misspoke. They won 2 games since we last spoke.
Mhm.
They beat Schalke and they beat Armenia. Armenia.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I look at this Bundesliga table and it's honestly quite surprising. You see Wolfsburg in third. Frankfurt, Eintracht Frankfurt has been pretty good in recent years. They sold off their talent. They sold off Ante Rebic. They sold off, I think Sebastian Haller was actually at Frankfurt as well. And then, obviously, the main man, Luka Jovic, to Real Madrid. And now he's back on loan. And, I mean, they still have a great core. And now, right now, they're only 3 points ahead of Dortmund with the same amount of games played. Bayern in the lead as always. Leipzig is really the only team in contention to catch them. 2 points behind the 52 points at the top for Hansi Flick's squad. Leverkusen without Kai Havertz in sixth. Union Berlin with the one and only Loris Karius in
Oh
seventh.
wait, one thing about
Go
Leverkusen.
ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
They are
Huge.
1 game behind, and so they could catch up to Dortmund if they win their next game.
Yeah,
They'd
absolutely.
have at 40 points,
Mm-hmm.
be in fifth.
Yeah, and then, but one thing that's really interesting to watch, even though it's not really super important, but I mean it is kind of important for the culture of the Bundesliga, is Schalke in last place. They only have nine
Ah,
points. They're pretty much the Sheffield United of the Bundesliga. They're at a minus 45 goals differential. They've been scored on 61 times. Mainz in 17th is only at a minus 20. I mean, really the only way they're going to get out of that relegation zone or into a relegation playoff in 16th would be to have to leapfrog teams. Hertha Berlin is also tied for 16th. Schalke only has 9 points, so I mean they need to get results. They recently got transfers. They got Sead Kolasinac. They got Skodran Mustafi. They had that American that scored a hat trick. I mean, and obviously Weston McKennie's on
okay.
loan, but do you remember his name that got the hat trick? Pretty electric first start for Schalke.
I do not remember.
Yeah, I'm sure I could look up his name, but like even when they got that victory,
I'll look at that.
yeah, for Schalke, since then it
Yeah, I'll look
hasn't
for that.
hasn't really been great since then, and they really need results because if you think about a team that's struggling such as Sheffield United, I think Sheffield United's only at like 8 or 9 points or something like that,
No, they
similar
have
to where
11.
they are. 11, doing a little bit better,
Yeah.
but as far
Oh,
as the
Matthew
margin,
Hope.
Matthew Hoppe, yeah.
Very, very impressive.
Yeah, impressive for him, that's for sure. But even then, their last match for Schalke, they lost to Stuttgart 5-1. So I mean,
Yeah, very fortunate for them.
disappointing, and it would be tough to not see the Riverside Derby in Schalke and Borussia Dortmund continue if they got relegated. Which is why
That
some
would
of
be a little
those,
painful.
yeah, which is why some of those former club prospects like Mustafi and Kolasinac went back to try to help the team back up. It's one of the only reasons they went because Mustafi wasn't going to get game time, and he said, "I'm going to cancel my contract and go help Schalke." So I mean, it's admirable and it's one of the great things we see in the culture of football, but still got plenty of work to do. That's for sure.
Yeah, I expect to see Schalke get relegated, but I'd also expect them to come back up next year, honestly.
Yeah,
Because, I mean,
like blindly
Mustafi.
when I
Sorry?
look at the Premier League. In a similar respect, I want Sheffield United to stay up, but I know they probably won't. So like when you look at when you look at Schalke, I mean, it's unfortunate, but it probably has to happen. So I mean, go ahead.
I could see Schalke doing what Norwich is doing this year, but
Oh,
also
absolutely,
you,
yeah.
yeah, but also you have like players like Mustafi coming back to the club
Mhm.
to help it if they
And
get relegated. I expect him to stay
yeah, you talk about
because
it.
he came to.
Yeah, you talk about a team that's like their main problem was scoring goals, and now they get a left back and a center back. That's huge for them, and like they're going to go from not having the ball at all to having these young players like Hoppy and other players to get on the ball in the Bundesliga too if they do get relegated and really get that experience. And 'cause it's the same for Norwich. They came to the Premier League. They didn't have much of the ball. It was totally different. They were a team that dominated possession in the championship, and they're doing it again this season. So I mean, that's definitely a complex to watch for the Bundesliga. But other than that, I mean, Bayern high, flying high as usual. Leipzig really the only one catching them. But the main thing to look at, obviously, would be the race for the top four Champions League spots. That's for sure.
I do have a question.
Yeah,
I
go
do
ahead.
have a question. Why don't people ever talk about Bundesliga being a farmers league, quote unquote? I always hear it about Liga Un
Mhm.
being a farmers league, but I never hear about the Bundesliga being a farmers league when they always have
What?
the same result each year.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of it is like if we just compare the Bundesliga, because like even the Serie A is not considered Farmers League anymore because of all the competitiveness with the table and everything, and Juventus not even leading the league. But if we're talking about just the Bundesliga, I'd have to say even though it's been breached, it would be the 50+1 rule of fan ownership, where fans have to own 51% of the club, meaning that all of those shareholders collectively, whenever there's a resolution passed or a budget or anything, it's voted on by the fans. It's not just one owner signing pen to paper. And that's something that's been breached by RB Leipzig, that's had club executives invest as fans in the company so that the Red Bull Corporation could own the club. Same with like a team like Salzburg, but specifically in the Bundesliga, Hoffenheim is owned by. I would have to look up his last name for a quick minute here, but he owns the statement. Oh, I'm not even looking at it, but it's Dietmar Hopp. Yep, 96% shareholder. And so there are two teams right now in the Bundesliga that don't really abide by the 50+1 rule. I think that's, but other than that, if you look at the other 16 teams, I think that's the main reason why they're not Farmers League, because they're clubs that don't have as much money. Even Bayern Munich, not even in the capital city, don't have enough money, had to figure out ways to develop their academy, use really great scouts, great coaching. I think that's what separates the Bundesliga from other leagues as well. And I mean, if you're going to talk about a team that embodies that 50+1 rule and that German football culture, I mean, Union Berlin, when they went
Oh, yeah.
when they came up in the league and they didn't have enough money to renovate their stadium, their they had their union of fans that organizes all of the fan events for the club. Um, Organized like a team of like over like 2,000 people that went to the stadium over the summer, which is literally called the Forest Stadium because it's in a forest. It's not in the Olympic Stadium uh, Hertha Berlin is in 15th place. Meanwhile, Union is in 7th, and they had the fans remodel the stadium themselves, with some of them with no construction experience, put seats in, lay new concrete steps and everything, and they did the entire stadium's renovations for the seating, and
It
it's huge. I mean,
feels like
you
something.
never see that anywhere else in America. I mean, sometimes maybe even England now. I mean, I think that's a huge thing that separates the Bundesliga from being a farmers league per se league.
Thank you for answering my question.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, let's. What else do we? Anything else you want to touch on the Bundesliga?
I mean, I don't have much right now. I mean, I think we covered most of the bases. I mean, every
Yeah, I
league's
mean,
exciting. That's why we love to get to like talking about every single league. That's not to say that other leagues aren't important because we don't get to Mexican league, we don't get to South America a lot, but we're getting to your big six and maybe including Portuguese league sometimes, looking at different prospects as well. But Bundesliga,
yeah.
great league. get some games on your telly and make sure you make sure you tune in and watch all the great players and young talent they have. That's for sure. But League One Uber Eats. That's also an interesting table. The age of COVID
Oh
has
my
really
goodness.
the age of COVID has really brought in like so much uncertainty for like league leaders that usually dominate. You talk about Juventus winning the title like 9 straight times or even more than that. I've lost count to be honest. But in France, Lille is at the top of the table with a game in hand, and PSG is in second. I mean, you've looked at that before, Camilo, because obviously you followed Tigre Ronald Falcao when he was there. See Monaco in
Yeah.
fourth, but I mean, what do you make of this French league table? It was such a surprise for me, just
It's been
continuing to
years.
follow it. Yeah, yeah,
It's been
absolutely.
years since uh Monaco are in fourth, 26 games played,
Hmm.
52 points.
Yeah.
Lyon is in third place, 26 games, 55 points. Um, PSG, 27 games, 57 points. Lille, 26 games, 58 points. I think at this point, at this stage of the game, in 2000 and 2020, PSG would have been dominating.
Hmm.
Which actually, this was the end of the year, and
Yeah.
PSG were how many? I think at this time of the season, this
Hmm.
is when the season ended last year, around now. France, and maybe every team played like two more games or something,
Yeah.
one more game. Uh, and I distinctly remember PSG only having played 27 games and being like 12 points up, while all the other teams played 28 games. So you see something very different this season. Just at this point, with Lille having being so competitive,
Hmm.
but not only Lille, with Lyon and Monaco. I mean, it's just something that it's four. It's the big four. You have Lille, PSG, Lyon, and Monaco.
Yeah. I mean, if
And behind them you have Metz
and I
with
think yeah, I think
41
that's
points. So
something huge to look at when you talk about a big four. If you think about a historical big four, you think of PSG, Lyon, Marseille, who is now kind of falling out of favor themselves. Then maybe you slide in Monaco. Maybe you slide in Lille, who's been like really good. They had, of course, Eden Hazard come out as a product of their club, but the drop off is huge from that top four. Monaco's in fourth with 52, and then Metz in fifth, as you mentioned, with 41 points, 11 points back. So like those Europa League spots are going to some uncharacteristically in favor teams like Metz and Lens maybe even. So I mean
yeah, I
that's
mean,
really good for like developing French talent, developing the French league, getting that money into certain clubs to be able to build up their infrastructure. I think that's one thing I always love seeing is clubs breaking through that glass ceiling. But I mean a huge thing again, obviously at the top of the table has to be Lille. I mean you talk about all their new players that are really fueling that. I mean the one player I always really hone in and remember notably would be Tim Wee, just because he is an American prospect. I think it's great to see him contributing to Lille in first place. Lyon with Memphis Depay at the helm, only 3 points behind that spot. Then Monaco won the league. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I think it was like 2014 or 2015. They had all that talent. They beat PSG. They got to like the Champions League
20.
like semifinal or something like that.
It was
Champions League
2016.
final, right?
Yeah, no. Champions League final. I'm pretty sure
Yeah, they
they
had like
had.
Subasic. What's that team that they had? I know Subasic was in goal because then he played for Croatia in the World Cup. But
I think they had Falcao.
yeah, they had Fabinho, Mbappe, Bernardo Carvalho Silva. Um,
Oh, they had Mbappe. I
they had a
remember
great
watching
team.
that with Mbappe. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
just
think
a
that's
great
what
team.
put Mbappe on the map for PSG. Really.
Yeah, yeah, that was definitely huge for them. But I mean, like when we talk about the drop off for this French league, I mean,
That was the word I was looking for. Drop off.
yeah,
I mean, you go Monaco with 52 points and Metz with 41. Even before, I think last episode,
mm-hmm,
Monaco weren't really in contention, but now they are just because they've had such a good run of form.
yeah, absolutely.
Like in their last 5 games, they've won 4 games and they
Mm-hmm.
haven't lost any.
Yeah.
I expect to see them continue that, or I hope to see them. I don't want. I think if PSG win this year, it won't be as horrible as it might seem.
Oh yeah, but
It'll
no,
still be horrible.
I think it's still great to see teams challenging, but like the one thing that we always see in the Liga is drop off. Like
Yeah.
in this respect, it's different. I mean, four teams battling it out at the top, and then the drop off is for the Europa League and then the rest of the league. I mean, if you go down to 10th place, Anger is like at 35 points, and Metz is only 6 points above them at fifth. So like, yeah, there's a huge drop off from the top four, but it's still great to see plenty of teams battling it out, competing. And when we use the term drop off, I keep saying this, but it's in a different light. It's not PSG at first, and then the rest of the teams lagging behind.
It's not Monaco in second, 19 points behind PSG.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean it's a totally different culture change, and I think it's I mean, not that it's for the better for Pochettino, who is pressured by the ownership to always win a title and then has to get that Champions League. But I think it's just great to see the French game. Obviously, they do develop some great talent there, but to get new teams into the mix is only going to help them financially, even during COVID as well. So that's huge for them.
I will say they are not a farmers league.
Mm-mm. No, you turn on a French league game just like any league. I mean, you watch a lot of those games. It's different in the sense that they maybe don't have as many established players, but it's always fun to watch because you're going to have a lot of young talent, a lot of players trying to find their feet and prove their worth, and that's only an incentive to compete and put on some great football. So, I mean,
I'll tell you one
props to
thing.
Liga, that's for sure.
Yeah. I'll tell you one thing. I watched the Colombian league.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not actually sure what it's called, and my dad's like, "Why are you watching this? It's not good." And I'm like, "Yeah, but this is in 5 years. I'm gonna see like this player I'm watching right now play for maybe like Newcastle or something, but still they're gonna be playing for the Colombian national team."
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, like even watching smaller leagues, you're gonna see some players that could break through if they're in like a big country like Colombia or something else.
Yeah.
Like if they're
Or
in
especially Brazil in the
yeah,
Brazilian league.
but
Is
like
huge.
Brazil and Argentina are already two big leagues, where Colombia it's a pretty small league. And
Mm-hmm.
for let's say the Croatian league, I don't know, like I can't think of any examples in Europe right now. Obviously,
You
the
can think of like
Portuguese
the
league.
Swiss league, 10
Yeah, the
teams,
Swiss league,
and one team goes to
Portuguese
the Champions
league.
League. Yeah,
So
Portuguese
I
league.
mean,
We
even
talked about
watching,
it being underrated though. That's for sure.
yeah, no, it is underrated, but like you'll also have some teams that are lower that aren't very good.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like you always think of the big three of Braga, not Braga. I'm sorry, Sporting CP, Benfica, and Porto.
Mm-hmm.
So it's always those three that you expect to win, and they always have the good players. But I mean, once you go down to like, I'm trying to think of another team, maybe Boa Vista or something.
Or Rio Ave.
They're not going to be as good.
Yeah, like you think about
But
a team that's funneled out goalie prospects in Ederson and Jan Oblak. Rio Ave is
yeah,
that's maybe a team to look at. I mean, plenty more teams that have developed amazing prospects as well. But I mean, yeah, any game's a great game to watch in these developing leagues. Um, Especially when you talk about an example of even Porto, a team that's historically been a great club with tons of history, actually winning the Champions League with
oh yeah,
Jose. Maybe not a big team in today's
they won a
way of
Europa League though
yeah. I mean, but if you
recently.
look at the way the world works now, I mean, it's just not going to get enough money for uh,
Yeah,
fans
but
watching Portuguese league versus England abroad. But
no, you're right. But I mean,
especially
I'd
without
still
COVID,
say
but it's still very very well established. They have great academy products, and it's just pretty good on field product to
Diogo
watch as
Leite.
well.
Diogo Leite. I'm sorry, I just gotta say one thing about Diogo Leite.
Oh yeah,
I expect him to be the best thing ever.
where does he play?
Or even like Evan Nielsen. These are like unknown names to everyone, but like Evan Nielsen, Diogo Leite,
Oh, they're
what's
under
that
football
goalkeeper's name?
manager
Diogo
save.
Costa.
Yeah.
Yeah, the football manager said, letting me know who all these players are.
Yes,
No, but like
sir.
I even knew about them before. These are like academy prospects coming up, and they're good. Well, not Evan Nilsson,
Mhm.
but like they're good players.
Yeah. But I mean, yeah, I mean, competitiveness in Liga is only going to get better. I mean, we touched on the Liga NOS. I mean, we were going to get to that later, probably after we talk about the Serie A right now. I mean, because
Yeah,
if I'm looking at this table right now, it's it's a handful. I mean,
it's a little
Juventus.
disappointing.
When I looked at Juventus last season, I was uneasy about them winning the league. It was really close, and then Mauricio Sarri wins the league, gets sacked for it right after, obviously because they didn't go far in the Champions League. But yeah, I mean, only their vulnerabilities continue to show as we expected into this season. Juventus is at
There's a
third
crack in the armor.
place. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, maybe the armor that is Cristiano Ronaldo, and being so physically fit at the age of 36, but that team doesn't look like Ronaldo right now. The rest of the team is porous and not really cohesive in that respect, and they're only 2 points ahead of Roma, who was qualified for the Europa League last year, I believe, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
I think so. Yeah,
Yeah, and then Inter Milan is at 53 points at first. AC Milan ultimately gave up their lead at the helm. They had been there for the longest time, which is a crazy thing to think about, that a 39-year-old is leading AC Milan to first place in the Serie A, one of the most competitive leagues in the world. But
they lost 2 games in a row. I think that was just
yeah,
that was the downfall right now.
yeah. But I mean, they still got a capable squad. Roma's been a huge surprise for me. I mean, of course, some people may seem to forget about a talent like Henrik Mkhitaryan, who played for Borussia Dortmund, went to Manchester United. Now he's at Roma. They got plenty of other players that can do bits as well. And then my guys with Atalanta, 43 points. They started off the season slow last season, and they kind of crawled
Yeah,
their way up to get qualification. But do I expect them
I
to get a top four? I'm honestly uneasy about it because I see Lazio with 43, Napoli with 40 and seventh. I'm not really sure how it's gonna go. I mean, as a fan, full disclaimer, just talking about Atalanta. If they make the Europa League, I think that's fine because it's about getting the paycheck, making sure they get money and funds to pay their salaries and develop the facilities and make sure they could establish themselves and get their feet underwater
they're a
or
growing
above
club.
water. Yeah, I think that's huge for them either way. But would I like to see them in the Champions League? Absolutely. I think it's great for them. But at the same time, the rest of these clubs are in somewhat of a similar financial position. While you see Lazio and Napoli are big clubs in Italy, but their stadiums are falling apart. It's not like a lot of these Italian teams have the money Juventus does. So any team getting the Champions League that's different from Juventus or bigger clubs every year crawling into frame is huge, I think. But yeah, it's
And what was
still
that
all up for grabs in my opinion.
about that? What do you call it? The cup in Italy.
Coppa Italia.
Yeah, Coppa Italia.
Yeah, it
I
used to be
mean,
called the Tim Cup for the longest time. It was a sponsor, but
who sponsored it? All the Tims in the world.
yeah, it was like a Timothy. I don't know, but I think it was like some racing tire company or something. But
But I mean, did the Coppa Italia
what
draw to a close?
I don't know because all I know is for sure is last year Napoli won against Juventus in penalty kicks because of COVID they took out extra time and they took the match straight to
Oh,
penalty kicks and Napoli won and they got into the Europa League. So that was good for them, but I don't
looking
know
at it
about the
on Wiki.
yeah, I don't
Uh,
know about this year's one.
yeah, no, it's Atalanta versus Juventus, May 19th.
Is that the final?
Yeah, that's gonna be the final.
Yeah, because I was a little confused with it because I know that the Atalanta B team, which is called something specific, kind of like how think about Real Madrid Castilla, they have like some specific name for their B team,
Oh yeah,
and they actually won the Coppa Italia for their league. So I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Got some silverware for the squad. I wasn't really sure on their position, but huge for them. I mean, huge confidence booster, huge revenue booster, and even if they fall super hard down past eighth place, that would qualify them for the Europa League as well. But I'm confident seeing them slot at least into the top 6. And for other squads, you saw Lazio really start off slow, but Chidi
Oh yeah.
Immobile's had them back on track. Even though they've only won 3 of their last 5, I mean, it's good enough to get them
As
sniffing
you
that
said,
top 4, that's for
crawling
sure.
back. They're
Yeah,
crawling back.
absolutely. Yeah. I mean,
Um,
yeah, it's huge for them.
I think Inter Milan just kind of started running now. Like started running with it.
Yeah, I mean,
Not
if
running
I
away with it, but
yeah, you
they've
look at their form of winning 4 of their last 5 and then getting a draw as well. I mean,
they're back.
yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, if you talk about one player that's a huge difference maker and I think undeservedly memed slash made fun of, Romelu Lukaku. That's for
Yes.
sure. The big man is basically, not to compare Inter Milan to Atalanta, but if you think about a strong physical target forward that also has the pace to get in behind, like Duvan Zapata, Duvan is huge for Atalanta to hold up the ball, be able to distribute to his fellow players or even make runs in behind. When I think about Romelu Lukaku, it's just a physical presence, like handful for defenders in the box, has a strong left foot. Maybe his first touch isn't all that great, but everything else, he's the complete package. And then you pair him up there with Lautaro Martinez. I mean, he's someone that no one talks about outside of Italy, in my opinion, and he needs more recognition as well. Those two guys are just huge for Inter Milan, and I think that's a huge reason for them being up there. I mean, along with the strong defense and great goaltending they have. I mean, they got Akraf Hakimi from Real in the summer. I mean, Conte has just been making great moves for the squad, that's for sure.
You do hate to see Milan Derby. What happened to last time out there
Oh, we're
with Inter beating
yeah.
with Inter beating Milan by 3-0.
Yeah, what I found most
But I
comical was Lukaku and Ibrahimovic headbutting each other when they were former teammates at
oh
Manchester
yeah.
United. So,
Yeah. That's I mean, it's whatever though.
yeah, it's whatever. But
It's whatever.
quick shout out to Lautaro Martinez who last season finished the season with 14 goals, 3 assists in 35 games. This season, he has 13 goals and 4 assists, the same number of goal contributions in 23 games. So this is some of his best pace so far with the club. The 23-year-old from Argentina, I think he's a huge contributor. I mean, I think there's no stopping him. And you pair him up there with not Lautaro Lukaku, but Romelu Lukaku, and he's just gonna hold up the ball and create space for him. I think honestly, if they keep running with it, I think they could clinch the title. Milan has been great this season, and I love to see it, but I don't think they have a sustainable lineup, and I don't think they have enough depth to do so. Will they bring young players through?
Yeah.
Absolutely, but if you talk about a more complete squad than Inter Milan, I don't think you're looking at AC Milan. I think you're looking at Juventus even. I think you might even be looking at Napoli or Lazio, even though you look at Napoli at 7th. They have Dries Mertens up front with Insigne. They brought in Milik, who's now transferred out. They have a solid they had a solid attack, and then they had a solid central midfield with a guy I always confuse with Sergei Milinkovic-Savic, and I sometimes can't even draw upon his name, but they're both Eastern European. Um,
Although you do, Napoli did unfortunately lose this leg to in the Europa League to Granada.
the guy I was looking for was Zielinski, Peter Zielinski, who I always confuse with Milinkovic-Savic. But Mertens, Insigne, Osimhen, Lozano, they have depth at forward. Koulibaly, of course, is on defense. And then your guy Ospina has been out of favor in goal. But like I look at a
Fortunate,
team
but
like Napoli that even hasn't like been at the position they should be with the talent they have in 7th place and Gattuso as the bench boss. But like and AC Milan's had a great run, but I think if they lose a couple players, like maybe namely Hakan Çalhanoğlu, Ibrahimovic, of course, Ante Rebic, I think that it all goes off the rails in that respect. Because ultimately, you got to get goals on the board, and they have a solid goalkeeper in Donnarumma and other players. But if they lose that attack, then it'll continue to go downhill, even with their last run of form only winning 2 of their last 5.
I concur with you. It's all about the depth in a
Yeah,
league this
absolutely.
competitive, and at this point in the year as well.
Yeah, I don't know
Yeah,
how
you're
many
getting game after
matches they
game.
play officially. Like, do they play 35 or do you know for
Uh,
sure?
I'd assume I'd assume it's the same as the Premier League,
Yes, it'd
36.
be 36, yeah. Yeah, like
But
two home and away or it would be 38 because two home and away for each team. So like you'd play the other
two.
19 teams and it would be one home match and one home away match.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So I think it would be 38 for this league, whereas Bundesliga, you'd only be playing 17 teams and they'd have 34 match days. But yeah, I mean,
No, but
huge to see what's in contention for the Serie A, that's for sure. I mean, Bundesliga has been
this is
competitive. Ligue 1 Uber Eats, Liga Uber Eats. Serie A has been competitive. And honestly, it's one of my favorite leagues to watch now because of the abundance of goal scoring. Not just with teams that are offensively centered like Atalanta, but just the competitive nature of having to outscore your opponent is huge for me. But that's just my
surprising
take
though.
on it. That's for sure. Yeah, absolutely a surprise as well. But moving
But
on, I mean,
you have
yeah,
two
go
of
ahead.
the most you have two of the least competitive leagues usually in Serie A and Ligue 1, Uber Eats,
Mhm. Yeah,
and
absolutely.
they're actually some of the most.
Yeah, that's
Is
like a huge
impressive.
surprise. Yeah, I mean,
I think this might attract a lot of revenue. Not a lot, but some.
yeah, ESPN has the American license, and I think it was a good move for them buying that a couple years ago because now fruits of their labor are going to pay off soon. I think it's gaining a lot more traction with the Italian league. But looking at La Liga, historically, of course, it's only Barcelona and Real Madrid, and they're a league that was also hyperly concentrated in having only a couple teams win the title. I think Atletico Madrid did clinch a title one year. Can't recall when. They, of course, had Antoine Griezmann as their striker. Um, but yeah, I mean, now, even though it's really only still four teams in the race at the top four, it's still competitive in the sense that Barcelona and Real Madrid aren't really the teams that they were, and they're still out of favor. I mean, you look at Barcelona, they have 53 points in second place, but they've played 25 games. Atletico Madrid is 2 games behind with 2 points to lead, so they pick up 2 wins, they're up by 8 points. And then Real Madrid is at 52. They're 1 game ahead, say they get a 55 points, and they're still behind by 6. So Atletico still got a hold in the Spanish league. Sociedad did look like they were competing for a top four spot. Now they kind of fallen into Europa League. Villarreal, who
But
used to have
and
Santi
they're coming
Cazorla,
back.
isn't really. Yeah, like Villarreal is in terrible form, but they're still in sixth place. But yeah, you talk about Sociedad has talent. Of course, you think about David Silva transferring over the summer. They've won 3 of their last 5, and they got 2 draws. So they leaving some points in the table, but they're really um, in some respects, they only dropped 4 points, so they got 14 out of 18 points, or rather, 12 out of I can't do math right now, but
I'm not good at
you
math either,
you know the thing. They got 3 wins and they got 2 draws. Okay, yeah, 11 points out of 15. There we go.
There we go.
Yeah, so I mean,
Um,
pretty good results for them, and yeah, just love seeing all the competitive nature and the transfers coming through the league. I mean, yeah, I mean, I think it's
Even just mid-table Spain is
yeah.
it's interesting to watch.
Mhm.
Like Real Betis versus Getafe, I was entertained.
Yeah, if there's one team I'm rooting for, as far as just like, from a neutral standpoint, would be Valencia. They're in 14th
Yeah,
place. They have 27 points, so they're only 6 points above the relegation zone. But for me, it's huge to see them just stay in the league and get that television revenue. They're not going to get into the Europa League anytime soon unless they develop more talent because of the destructive ownership they've had recently. You think about mentioning only a year ago, they were in the Champions League. They were playing in the round of 16 against Atalanta. where they lost 8-4 on aggregate, where Joseph Ilicic scored 5 of those 8 goals for Atalanta. Which is insane to think about that last season. I mean, we saw it happening. They nearly got relegated. I believe they got around 16th or 17th. I mean, that's what I believe happened, because obviously they're still here. But they were really close. They were treading into murky waters there. But this season they're just above. And I mean, just for the sake of the club, I mean, it's just for the sake of their old historic stadium, the history of the club, all the players that have come through there. I mean, you'd hope to see the best for them, and especially in the competitive nature of this league is trending towards with the fall of some giants like Barcelona and Real Madrid in some respects.
It's been years coming.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
if you think
the start of
about
the league. I mean,
yeah, you think about teams with a lot of money. I mean, the Mestalla Valencia was actually planning to build a new stadium a long time ago. They had plans 20 years ago that they deferred and tabled for 10 years. Then they pushed it back again. Then they had the resolution started for around like 2014-15-ish. I watched a video on it. They never did, obviously, because they've mismanaged their funds and they haven't done a great job with that. But even with the Champions League revenue, they just haven't found a way to be sustainable. Yeah, it's called the New Mestalla, which would have just been the New Mestalla. And it's not complete. It's just a concrete structure that's been built. It was supposed to be a new revolutionary structure that would have been used for the stadium, but there were plans to complete it, but it's just been sitting there in Valencia for quite some time. It's planned to be open
honestly,
in 2022, but like, hopefully, that's why it's huge for this team to stay up, and I'm rooting all the best for them because they were a powerhouse. They used to finish like in second or third each year, get Champions League, but now they're just struggling to survive, and so that's huge for them, that's for sure.
but I mean, they did have problems before.
Yeah.
No, like they were led by one of the best managers in history, actually, Gary Neville. So
Yeah, big name drop there,
um,
not a big deal.
just something I wanted to say. I mean, still they're a good team, and nobody wants to see them go down. I don't think.
Yeah. When you talk about prospects like Ferran Torres, who went to Man City, I'm sure he's a guy that was sold for only like 20-something million, who could have been sold for much more if teams didn't know that they were going bankrupt. But yeah, I'm sure players like him, Danny Parejo, I don't know if he's still there at this team or not, but some quality products that you got out of Valencia, and you hope that they continue to fight their battles and contribute. But I mean, all this talk of Valencia and all the talk of the competitiveness of the league, not really honing in on this Atletico Madrid squad. We haven't really talked about how they've been great domestically. We did touch on earlier in the Champions League edition that really wasn't a good result for them against Chelsea. Really too stuck in on their defensive system. But I mean, you look at their goals differential, it's one of the best in the league. They're at 29, plus 29. Only team better is Barcelona at 33, which is interesting to think about, right? But all the hate that the team gets still, because we know they could be doing so much better. But 17 wins, 4 draws, 2 losses. Pretty much efficiency from the gaffer, making sure he's coaching his squad. And they are still in a position to win it, but I mean, you got to make sure you don't get injuries from that squad. Luis Suarez and João Felix have to be near perfect putting in goals, because they really only get a few chances each game to try to pot one and then defend. So, I mean, interesting to look at. Do you think that Barcelona could crawl back, or Real Madrid could crawl back and win the league? And would it be seen as a good accomplishment, or do you think that it would be more of like just an ominous thing to think that, oh, it was so hard for them to win it this year, it's just going to continue being like that? Or is it a bright accomplishment for one of these clubs to come back? I mean, if I'm answering it, I'm just like, I know the quality is going to continue to go down for Barcelona, Real Madrid after they lose their experienced players, but
Yeah,
I do like the competitiveness though.
I like the competitiveness, but I think it's becoming a lower quality of football.
Mm-hmm.
With Barcelona and Real Madrid having these very good players, they've not been bolstering their squads at all. um, you just see more problems
Yeah,
uh
absolutely.
within La Liga in general.
Mhm.
I mean, the La Liga teams aren't even doing good in like Europe, as good in Europe.
Mhm.
Real Madrid barely made it to the group this year, and what even happened last year? Were they? There weren't many La Liga teams that made it to the like after COVID.
Oh, I know
Bit
Sevilla
funny.
with Julian Lopetegui was they obviously won the Europa League because they're the kings of the Europa League. I think that was their third
Yeah.
Europa League title. But yeah, I mean, you look at other squads that historically have been like either like inching along in Europe or actually somewhat established, like Villarreal, kind of on the outside, on the fringe. Athletic Club Bilbao. Sometimes they've done things. Real Betis has been in the Europa League. Sociedad, Europa League. Then you go all the way down to Eibar in 16th, who has been in the Europa League. Even though they're in a municipality of 5,000 or 10,000 people in their stadiums. Yeah, they have 20,000 people in their city. Their stadium only seats 5,000. Such a small team, such a small club, but I mean, you have had teams recently that have kind of made their stamp on European football, but now the quality has descended a little bit. Still some competitiveness, but we'll see what that competitiveness brings as far as the margins and new teams to sprout into the European leagues. But I mean, only time will tell, I guess.
That you like to see? Like to see?
Mhm.
Although although people have been questioning Messi a lot this year, or this
Mhm.
season, and I just wanted to say one thing.
Yeah.
He has scored like 14 goals in all competitions in 2020,
Mhm.
something like that. And I think that's like on par with Lewandowski or something.
Yeah.
So I I still expect him to maybe save Barcelona. Although
Yeah.
I
I
was
mean,
watching today, he made a horrible shot. Like he used to be perfect, and you're starting to see the wrinkles in skill,
mhm. Yeah, that's for
if
sure.
that makes sense.
Mhm.
You're starting to see his age come through.
Yeah, I mean, I think in part it's the age. I am also in part think it's the over reliance on an aging Messi. But that's just my
Yeah,
take on it. We'll see what happens if he goes to another league and
not
prospers. We
actually.
don't really
I
know if that would happen. It's not a guarantee. I mean, it could just be his inevitable decline in some respects.
but you could also say Barcelona have been relying on an aging squad for
Mhm.
a while now.
Yeah, in
They still
general.
play PK. They still play
Mhm.
what's the other guy's name? I'm not very good. I'm not as good with names as Jared, so please
Oh, if you
be a little
talk about
patient with me.
in defensive midfield, Sergio Busquets,
Uh,
Jordi
yeah,
Alba
yeah,
on the left
Busquets,
side.
Alba, them
Cent-
four
yeah.
are the ones that come to mind.
Obviously, in center back, they used to have Carles Puyol, and then since then, they filled the void with Samuel Umtiti and Clement Lenglet. Lenglet gets the nod most of the time. We don't really know what that means for Umtiti, whether he's injured or just out of favor with Ronald Koeman. But yeah. Either way, it's gonna be some huge
Yeah,
changes for that squad soon, and the Spanish league. But moving on, we said we were gonna talk about it earlier. Got to it a little bit later, but it's okay. I mean, Camilo, you love
the
watching the
biggest league.
yeah, you love watching it. It's one of the best leagues in the world as far as revenue. I mean, technically, if you're gonna judge it by that, it is the best. But if you're gonna judge it on competitiveness, Man City is in first place with 62 points, having won their last 5 games. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe they've gone on a run of more than 10 games won. I mean, I'm gonna count it up right now, but I mean, give me your take on the standings right now because usually it's a league
I'm
that's heralded as
asleep.
being competitive, but like, yeah, the Europa League spots, the
I'm
European League spots are all up for grabs, but it looks like Man City's going to run away with the title.
I'm kind of upset this year. West Ham
Hmm.
United are in fourth place. Do you know what place they were in last year? Do you know
What?
what place they ended off
Oh,
in last year?
17th.
West Ham
Yes.
United.
Yes, 17th.
16th place.
16th.
16th place. I'm just upset.
Mm-hmm.
This is a team that I've hated from day one. And it's just like this year is a fever dream. Man City are obviously winning, which isn't that surprising.
Okay, on that
But
note, real quick before
Man United.
yeah,
Yeah.
Man City have won their last 20 games in all competitions. That includes the EFL Cup, that includes the FA Cup, that includes the UEFA Champions League, and that also includes the League. They've won 20 straight games. And if you continue that
I
count,
expect to see Don
they've
Carlo
had-
end this.
yeah, they've had draws, but then they've had victories. They drew to Porto in the match days. The last game that they lost is kind of unthinkable because I'm still looking for it. It's September 27th against Leicester City, where they lost 5-2.
Wow.
September 27th was their last loss. They've drawn like 5 times since then, but 20 straight wins in all competitions. Insane. Mad from
Very impressive.
Pep Guardiola. But, I mean, go on with your point. But, I mean, if that doesn't imply the magnitude of, like, their title charge for most listeners, I don't know what will, besides the fact that they have a 13-point lead in first place ahead of Man United. But, yeah, it's just they're running away with it. I mean, what a quality side to get it done, though.
I think the biggest problem is just Man United aren't performing.
Oh, that was a huge thing we said in the last podcast.
Yeah. We predicted this.
Yeah.
They're not true title contenders. They've been winning and they've been drawing, but they haven't been winning enough.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you look at their squad, and it's something that Roy Keane, a pundit that Camilo is out of favor with, has said on Sky Sports many times, but it was kind of weird to see players like him and Micah Richards say, oh, after Man United, win 3 games in a row, and they were like in first place for 2 match days. They said, oh, Man United could win the title if they continue to have this run of form, when previously saying that Maguire and Lindelof or Bailly aren't good enough. And the truth of the matter is that they aren't. I mean,
Yeah.
Maguire, you can look at the stats and try to break it down and say, oh, well, they've scored the most goals in the league with 53, only one ahead of Man City. So obviously they're doing something right. But in the end, like, their defense is not good enough. It's more of a feel thing. Like when you talk about executives that run soccer teams or any sports team, and you say, oh, well, the GM doesn't know how to run a team because he hasn't played the game or doesn't understand the game. It's kind of the way you look at this Man United squad when you see Maguire, and you just have to look at him and say, not only is he slow, he's stupid, he's not positionally adept, and he's not
going to prison.
Nor is he a captain of Manchester United. I mean, it's like Ole said, oh, well, you weren't there to win the title with Leicester, but I mean, you got there the year after, so you might as well just be our captain. Even though Bruno Fernandes is obviously the most passionate guy out there and the most game-changing player for that squad. But now, not only a fridge that's been paid £80 million to Leicester to get him, he's just not a great player. I mean, he's slow, and then the reason that Lindelof and Bailly get blamed for goals is because of Maguire's terrible positioning and how slow he is on backtracking to return, and it's just awful. And then on offense, he gets on a corner kick. You can tell how much I hate him. But every time he's heading the ball, he can't jump, so he pushes guys on their shoulders and then complains when he gets a foul called on him. But that's just the game. And that's just one player I focus on and say he's not good enough. And I think, Camilo, you might have disagreed with me last time when I say I think David De Gea still has it left in the tank, that I think he's still a good goalkeeper, that I still think he's world class. But I think that it's not a true reflection of him with this awful defense, because put Dias and Stones in front of, or put, rather, David De Gea in the Man City squad, and I think you'd be getting the same results. I absolutely think that's true. I think this Man United defense isn't good enough. And then you look at their forwards, even though they've scored their most goals. I mean, Martial, ice cold Martial on the bench. If you got him from Monaco to be your main goal scorer. I mean, even though you're getting the slack picked up from other players, it's not good enough. And this team not only doesn't have enough depth on the bench to get the job done, but their manager doesn't even have confidence in them, saying that they weren't title contenders when they were in first place. He predicted their own downfall. He like breathed it into existence, spoke it into rather. And I mean, but like
Is
just from a subjective standpoint, from the both of us, I think we both look at Maguire and their defensive line and just look at it and say it's not good enough. It's just,
Maguire is an example of everything wrong with Manchester United.
Mhm.
They have a weak defense. There is no passion. There is no aggression. I mean, you see like Marcus Rashford,
Mhm.
Bruno Fernandes in the front, and they're fighting to get goals. But you have players like Maguire who don't defend, and they concede so easily.
Mhm.
And yes, De Gea is still a good keeper, but I don't think he's like at the level of Ederson
Yeah.
or
Inform
Allison
Alisson. Yeah.
before the yeah. So I
Which
don't
condolences to Alison Becker after his dad drowned in a
yeah
lake in
oh
Brazil.
yeah,
But
rest in
fair
peace.
play to him. Rest in
Um,
peace. But
you know your father would have been proud.
yeah. I mean, won the league, won the Champions Leagues, is the #1 goalkeeper for Brazil, competing with Ederson. I mean, that's a pretty good
He
feat
is
to come
he
up.
was, yeah,
That's a
yeah.
pretty good feat to come out on top on the national level when you're competing with another world-class goalie right by your side. But Brazil's gonna be a force to be reckoned with, that's for sure. But all this talk of like United and City, I love talking about Leicester too. I wanted to get to West Ham, but I guess we'll just go right down the table because Leicester City's in third. They have 49 points. They're even on matches with Man United. It's even on points. I mean, it's one of those teams I love watching. They're my de facto favorite team in the Prem right now. I just love seeing what Brandon Rodgers has done to this team. I mean, what do you think has been going for them if you've watched any of their games, Camilo? Because, I mean, I could say a million things.
They have Chengaze under. I can't say his name.
Yes, sir.
Did I say it right? No.
Schengen's under, yeah.
They did lose against Slavia Praga in the Europa League a few days ago,
Mm-hmm.
which was very unfortunate and kind of surprising.
Yeah,
But
they drew their first leg and then they lost 2-0 in the second leg. It was kind of disappointing.
Which is disappointing. But I mean, Slavia Praga will face Rangers in their next match in the Europa League. But back to Leicester City. I do expect Leicester City to pick up some slack as they're not really competing in another competition anymore. So I do see them trying to focus on the Premier League and trying to just get revenue from being in second place.
Yeah, that was a huge focus for them last season when they were in second place for the longest time. They dropped all the way out of the top four into fifth place last season on the final match day. And they were tied with Man United. Or they were 1 point behind Man United. All they needed was a win against Man United. Couldn't get the job done. But I mean, now they're in prime position to try to hold their lead in the Premier League. And I believe they can do it. I mean, players.
I still see.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I still see like Pereira and even Tielemans.
Mm-hmm.
I still see those two as important on like the right.
Oh yeah, that's huge. I mean, I was just gonna get into some of the players that have just been amazing. You can't say Leicester City without the Leicester City man, Jamie Vardy. It's kind of like when you talk about West Ham. Can't mention West Ham without Mark Noble. It's a proper West Ham man. But even though he's on the bench right now, but I mean, you think about proper guy that's been a one club man in some respects would be Jamie Vardy, as far as his first big club and staying there for the rest of his career and pledging his allegiance to them. But yeah, it's going to be huge for them. It looks like Leicester's shopping around in the summer window to try to get a replacement striker to play behind them. And that's going to be huge for them in the future.
I still believe in Iheanacho. I'm just going to say that. I still
Kelechi.
believe in Iheanacho. I think he can play at a level that he can still play at this level. He just hasn't performed.
I think if he gets consistent game time, he would be able to like get some reps and consistency.
I mean,
get it used to it or something.
Yeah. Like,
I mean, that would be
I could
good if they
see him.
got two. They got two guys that were capable. I mean, right now Kelechi's been a solid number 2 guy behind them. Sometimes
If
Brendan
I were,
Rodgers has tried a Josi Perez who came from
yeah,
Newcastle for 30 million, and he's been awful, just awful. But
I'll be honest. If I were Graham Potter, excuse me, if I were Brendan Rodgers, I would loan out Iheanacho next season.
interesting play.
See if he performs, and see if he can carry the torch, or if he can take the torch from Jamie Vardy.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about
And
yeah, go ahead.
sorry, okay. You still have like James Madison in attacking center, there's big talk about him playing for England, and people still want him to. He needs to perform
Yeah,
in order
Madison's
to
made a
look for that
couple,
Euro.
Yeah,
Euro spot.
Madison's been made a couple of Euro, or rather, media appearances, and he was talking to Chunks about why famous UK rapper Chunks,
Yeah.
as to why he wanted to push himself. He was talking to some pundit. I feel like it's not Jamie Carragher, but it was some old defender, and he was basically just saying on Sky Sports, he's like, needs more goal involvements. He needs to prove for the squad. That's the only way he's going to get into the squad is he performs for Leicester, and that's something that's been a huge motivator. And first off, he had a post-game
He has
interview
Jack
against.
Grealish to compete with.
Yeah, he had a post-game interview against it was after Villa or West Ham or I think it might have been when they beat Liverpool or something, and it was proper interview. He went on for 10 minutes. NBC Sports usually only gets an interview for 1 minute or 2 minutes. He just went on talking about his experience, how he's trying to bring new things to the squad tactically, all this stuff. Super smart guy, super great guy
He has
to
a
have
future
on the
in
pitch. That for
punditry.
sure. He not only has a future in punditry, be a great man manager tactically. Is tactically
Oh
sound,
yes.
knows his role. He was great at explaining everything. It was just such a great interview to watch. But that's one reason he's just a huge player, just a smart guy out on the pitch. Good Coventry lad, proper Coventry lad. But we move on. I mean, he's a part of that midfield 3. And when I talk about the other 2, it's Wilfred Ndidi and Yuri Tielemans. So my friends out here in Syracuse that work with TV says Ndidi is the guy, which he absolutely is. A guy that stepped in for Conte after he went to Chelsea. Wilf Ndidi
I mean,
from
he hasn't hit
Nigeria
that level yet.
Yeah, he hasn't hit that
He hasn't
level,
hit
but
that level yet, but he's
gotten injured.
brilliant.
But as far as his consistency, when he is 100% healthy, plays that role, intercepting passes, making sure he's playing the zones, and just positionally sound. He's been great. But for me, Yuri Tielemans is a guy I always rant on. My favorite player on Leicester, undoubtedly. Belgian player, youngest player to feature in the Champions League, and youngest player to score in the Champions League at 15 years, 9 months. Either that or 16 years, 9 months. One of those. But just a great talent. Leicester City had their record transfer fee broken for $40 million. I think he came from Anderlecht, if I'm not mistaken. And he's just been great since then. He had a bad game a couple weeks ago, a really bad game. But in my opinion, when you talk about Yuri Tielemans, you talk about the guy that's kind of under the radar, does all the little things right, defensively sound, makes those long passes. There was a goal that Harvey Barnes scored after he made the long ball to Jamie Vardy, headed it off to Harvey Barnes. Then Barnes passed it off to Madison, and that was the 2-1 finish for the game. And it was, to me though, Yuri Tielemans just cool, composed, gets all the little things done, sometimes knows when to make that big pass, make the extra pass, or make the simple play. To me, it's just, he's always underrated, and that's a player I love watching. 2 players you mentioned.
I expect to see a lot. I expect to see a lot from him.
Yeah, in the future. He's only 22 years old, and he's such a mature player for his age. I mean, I love watching it, and it's just a real quick mention to Cengiz Ünder, who has not really found his form in Leicester. He's been coming off the bench, but he's played consistently in the Europa League. Obviously, that's over now, but yeah, he's a quick, pacey player that's kind of different. I think he's played a huge role in challenging Harvey Barnes to have the career year he's having. He's already matched his goals production output, his goal contribution output from last season with still 12 games to play. So it's been huge for Harvey Barnes to be that contributor. I think that's why Leicester's where they are. But Ricardo Pereira, yeah, he's also huge for them. came back from injury. He's usually right back, but Brendan Rodgers in the last game, he played him at right wing. It was probably one of the most interesting plays I had seen when they were playing against Aston Villa. If I pull up the lineup,
Catch
it's
that game. That's why I was talking about him on the
yeah,
right.
yeah, it was huge
So
because
that's why.
yeah, he played
Yeah,
former
as
Atalanta man Timothy Castagna, who also came back from injury, which is huge. One of my favorite guys on the flanks as well. It's just again reliable. Just you get the same thing every game, always 100%. But yeah, he put him at right back. Luke Thomas, the great young academy product, at left back, and Ricky P was on the right flank. And that was something I saw discussed last season to try to put Pereira there because while he has that pace, he's sometimes not even traditionally used as a right back in previous years, and that allows them to kind of fill that void that they've had. Because Leicester's a team that's a great team, and they do have depth on the bench, but it's not like they have the same quality they have in Barnes and Vardy and Madison off the bench as well. So when you bring in Ricky P with all of his pace and his delivery, it's really kind of filled up a void that I think they might continue that I think Brendan Rodgers might continue using a Pereira at right wing, and I think it might really propel them into keeping their spot, their Champions League position, because it was a really interesting play, and I think he did a tremendous job excelling in that role.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, that's enough Leicester talk unless you have something else to say, because we got plenty more.
No, we've been
things to
talking like
discuss,
half the
that's for
Premier
sure.
League about. Yeah, half this Premier League talk has been about Leicester.
Yeah, I mean, you look at we have quality of Man City. We had how Man United is not legit because they aren't, and we knew it. Just stay tuned for more great takes on this podcast, the Goal Hour. But that's more than an hour. Should be our trademark. But West Ham in 4th place. Were they
West Ham United?
Were they
I want to talk
a huge
about
surprise for you, or
I hate West Ham. I hate West Ham. My good friend Christian, friend of the show.
Mm-hmm. Huge friend of the show.
He is a big fan of West Ham. West Ham supporter.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought West Ham were going to get relegated this year because of how close they were last year. It's been a long time coming for them. I think the only reason they didn't get relegated way earlier was because of Carlos Tevez. But that's besides the point. I expect West Ham to be in the Champions League now. This is what I'm expecting. I expect them to be in the Champions League or the Europa League by the end of the season.
So you think they beat out Thomas Tuchel's Chelsea, or maybe even Liverpool? Or Everton, who's only 24 games played, 2 games back from West Ham with 6 points.
So, my biggest thing is I don't expect Aston Villa to actually make Europe this year. Actually, no, I do expect them to make the Europe Conference.
Mm-hmm.
This new one next year. Maybe they'll make the Europe Conference.
They're implementing the new one?
Yeah. I think so.
Is it the pay-to-play scheme? I mean, just out of curiosity. I saw there was one that was the European Super League for the Champions League. I know was rejected because it would guarantee clubs to like
just
pay
the third
in.
Tier.
Yeah. Oh, okay, that's cool.
Yeah. So you have I expect Tottenham to hopefully somehow qualify for Europe either through the Carabao Cup or maybe making 6th or 7th.
Yeah, if you check out our first episode, give a quick background of all of our allegiances, and probably Tottenham is one of the strongest allegiances on this show to our co-host Camilo Yepes, and struggling side for them, that's for sure.
So it's painful, but I can see Tuchel carrying Chelsea to the Champions League. I'll be completely honest. As crazy as it may sound, I feel like Man United might keep slipping. They might keep tying, and they'll drop a lot of points, which will leave them in the Europa League.
I mean, I wouldn't doubt you at all because I hold that same mindset with Man United.
Yeah, I mean, there's no confidence in the club, and I mean, with the new loan move of Jesse Lingard, and his very impressive performance. Not performances.
I have him on my FPL team now. He got an assist today to Mikel Antonio. But
there you go. I mean,
yeah, he's been electric so far, and I think that's mean, if you want to talk about real quickly, I got to give a quick mention to West Ham's Thomas Suchek. He came
Oh
from
yes,
Slavia Praga, who just beat Leicester City. But yeah, he's just such a wholesome player, honestly, off the pitch. On the pitch, he just does all the great things. He's one of the only true box-to-box midfielders in the Prem. Just gets everything done offensively, defensively. I mean, he's been the engine with Declan Rice. I mean, I thought Declan Rice was overrated, but I think that the addition of Thomas Suchek, who was a very under-the-radar signing, really helped Declan Rice really elevate his game. And they've been amazing for West Ham. I think that's a huge part of why they're there.
unfortunately, very unfortunate for Mark Nobles though.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Because he's gonna have to sit out. Yeah, but
Great locker
if I
room guy,
could,
though.
yeah, if I could just, this entire time I've been like looking up the games
Mm-hmm.
and the stats and such, just because I forget player names. But
Mm-hmm.
the forward Mikel Antonio
Yeah.
and Fernales behind him.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is very, very important to the West Ham just lineup and just their entire the way they play.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, I see Jesse Lingard feeding Mikel Antonio and making some goals of his own.
Yeah. And,
But I also see like Fornals doing the same to Antonio.
yeah. And what's a crazy
But
thing about it is, if you think about a traditional striker that West Ham has, they don't really have a striker. Like they got rid of
No.
Sebastian Aller, who didn't want to be there. So, I mean, that's why they got rid of him, even at a loss. But Mikel Antonio came in as a winger, and now he's adapted to this role, kind of like a Romelu Lukaku type, if I dare to compare them. But big, strong, muscular figure, is able to command, like hold his own, get the ball, distribute, and also score goals. So, like he's evolved into a striker for David Moyes. So a huge thing to watch is if he does get injured, what happens for that West Ham team? Do they get
This is the
results or
question.
do they spiral out? So I mean, and if he doesn't get injured, that's huge for them as well. So I mean, I wish all the
I could
best to
still
them.
see. I could still see. Who are their? Who's their other forward? Like, what other forwards do West Ham use? I'm not versed in West Ham lore knowledge.
I mean, you gotta ask Christian Prado, that's for sure, right? But
Yes.
yeah, I mean,
Um.
if you look at their lineups, yeah, obviously they play for nows, but Jared Bowen is a midfielder, not necessarily a forward. I wouldn't call him a forward, but he was a really good signing that they had over the offseason from West Brom. Said Ben Rama comes in usually as a 10 for Fornals. He's also a really good player. He came from Brentford, obviously. Really creative type from Algeria. But
Oh, or
if you think about a forward, they don't they don't have a forward. They don't have a striker.
I think they could play. They could play that guy from Brentford up forward, maybe.
Well, you talk
I'm
about
not sure.
Fornals and Jess, and I think you could definitely put Jess up top, or maybe like instead of playing a 4-5-1, you'd play a 4-4-2. You'd couple
Yeah,
Fornals and Jess together, and they'd be able to play a deeper or higher off each other to feed each other through. That would be something, but
that's true.
obviously we're speaking as if Antonio is injured. He's not right now, but definitely a huge thing that some fans thought would happen is that they would sign a striker in the January window, and the board didn't do that. So, I mean, only time
And
will
it's
tell
paid
if they could
off
hold it. Yeah, I mean, they've just gone with the
for right
lineup
now.
they've had, and it's been Craig Dawson, another great value signing from West Brom, or rather Watford. My bad. His team got relegated, and they get him, and now he's in a top four defense. I mean, what more could you ask from him? And Fabianski, the Polish netminder, outstanding as well.
Yeah.
Arguably competing with Wojciech Szczesny, who's with Juventus. I mean, if you're getting West Ham results, why can't you get Poland results? So that's
But
just my take on it.
I
That's
do
for
have to
sure.
say,
Yeah.
I do think West Ham have a hard lineup coming up. Their next
Yeah.
game, they just played Man City and they lost. Their
Mhm.
next game is against Leeds United, who are, I mean, the David Moyes is gonna have to cope with the tactical genius that is Marcelo Bielsa, and then
Yeah. You
after
get.
that,
Mhm.
they head to Manchester,
Mhm.
the other side of Manchester, playing United, and I mean, I could see them maybe come away with that. I'm not sure. After that, it's Arsenal. That should be a win. Wolves, maybe. Leicester. That's tough. Newcastle, and then Chelsea, which is also going to be tough. Burnley, and then Everton, which is, actually a very difficult match since
Yeah, like you could look
Ancelotti has been having Everton.
yeah, you could look at some teams and say like, oh, Burnley's in near the relegation zone. But like, if you really look at it and you're watching the games, Arsenal's hasn't been great. Maybe I'd expect a win from Arsenal, but they still have quality, right? Wolves is the Portuguese national team. They're great. They have some great young players.
They're like the B Portuguese national team.
Yeah, for the most part, they don't have Ronaldo. They don't have the Bernardo.
They don't have João Felix.
They don't have Bruno either. Props to Bruno though. Even with all the hate that we spew on Man United, I mean,
to be honest,
even when he dives and gets all the penalties,
he dives more than some of the Colombians.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like thank you, but if you took his diving out of his game, major credit to him. He's still a fantastic player, but don't respect the diving. But like you look at even Burnley, who's like, okay, they might not score a lot, but they're gonna play that hard defensive block. They're gonna be tough to score against. So I mean, a lot of these results in the next 9 games are going to be huge for West Ham because then after that, they only have 3 games to finish the season. So,
yeah,
say they get 6 out of 9 of those, I think they're set. But I mean, only time will tell. They got to get those results. It's really difficult, especially against Marcelo Bielsa, even with his team at like around 10th-ish. Yeah, they're at 10th.
Yeah.
His team's going to run them around and they're going to like tire them out through and through, that's for sure, with their
the biggest thing with the table right now is if you look at 7th, 8th, and 9th place, Everton, Aston Villa, and Tottenham, they're both 2 or 1 games behind all the other teams.
Yeah.
So it's not exactly perfect predictions we can make. Yeah. But I don't see Tottenham realistically making Europa League.
Yeah, I mean,
I do see Everton. Well. Yeah, I do see Everton making Europa League.
Yeah, like if Tottenham didn't implode on themselves really and lose 4 of their last 5. Say they win 4 of their last 5 instead of losing 4 of their last 5. They get 9 points on the board, and they're up tied with West Ham, and they'd be up on goal differential, so they'd be in 4th place. I mean, it's all about the results. It's all about the results that you have to get if you're Tottenham, and you lost to West Ham, and then Man City's a tough game to win. So I mean, you give them credit for that. But like, if you're going up against Chelsea, and you're going up against Brighton, and you're going up against a depleted Liverpool squad, all of those losses add up in the end. I mean, and that's really the make or break moment of their season so far. But even if you look at when they were in first and then they dropped off, then they continued to drop off. So they're still close. I mean, but even they need to be perfect now.
No, even when they were in first, they had like that whole catastrophe with their first game against West Ham.
Mm-hmm.
That was. I'm looking at the thing right now, the information. There were 3 goals from West Ham in like less than like 15 minutes. With one of them being a Davinson Sanchez own goal. They made like in the first 20 minutes they made 3 goals.
Mm-hmm.
And in the last 20 minutes they conceded 3 goals. So I think it's just a perfect I think that's a perfect representation of Tottenham this season.
Yeah, it's also the antithesis of the Mourinho system to even concede in the first place, but to concede that much in that little amount of time. I mean, is the problem the players? Is the problem the coach? Is the problem the management from the top? Who knows? What do you think?
I'll be honest. I think as a Spurs fan, I'm looking at Twitter and stuff. Everyone's like, "Oh, the owner of Spurs, they're just stupid. They don't know what they're doing." But I also see it as the players.
Mm-hmm.
The players, like, there's no passion. There's Davinson Sanchez made an own goal there. He always makes one. As much as I try to defend him and support him, he makes one mistake every single game. And this is the Premier League. This is a league where you can't lose a game or you'll be down three places.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, it is very important to keep all the points you can. And to have a player like Davinson who gives away so many like easy opportunities
Yeah.
and who makes so many mistakes, it's not something you want to see in a team which should be competing for Europe.
Mm-hmm.
It's real defensive problems. And I also see a problem like, why didn't Mourinho sign anyone during this winter transfer window?
Yeah, like
He could have signed some sort of defenders. Like, he signed very good players at the beginning of the season.
Mm-hmm.
Reguilon, Højbjerg, but
Gareth Bale, namely,
I mean,
in some respects.
well,
you don't really
yeah, some
know for
respects.
sure if he's
in
good enough.
Europa League, he played well.
Yeah.
But also, there was dead weight in the central defensive role specifically, and arguably the right back role.
Mm-hmm.
Because as much as I believe in Tanganga
and
I want him to do well, Serge less so, because he, a lot like Davinson, he makes a lot of mistakes.
Mm-hmm. As much as I defend Serge is a fantastic player, fantastic effort, but even if you're a great locker room guy or you're really good, like as far as dedication to the squad, if like you can't get the little things done or do everything right to make sure you get a result, then like you gotta go. And hopefully that isn't the case for Serge. Maybe other players even they find their form, but like, yeah, I don't know what you would think about that right back position, especially Tanganga. You were saying?
Yeah, he's that first game he played with against. I'm trying to remember. Here, I'm looking at it.
Didn't he play with Joe
Played
Rodon?
Wonderfully. Yeah, I think so. No, I'm thinking of like, he played really good against, I think it was Man City.
Mm-hmm.
I think, I'm not sure.
Yeah, because they had a chance where they got like 3 shots out the post in the first half, and he made like that block when there was an open net. I remember that. Yeah.
It was very good. Like, he was consistent there, but next game, I think it was against West Ham, I think he failed miserably.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I heard. Because I couldn't watch it because it was at like 7 a.m. And that's like the problem. It's our defense. And I think Mourinho didn't sign anyone because he genuinely believed in the center backs.
Like
but
Toby.
he was just wrong. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I assume maybe the board didn't give him enough money to work with. He didn't have enough money to buy a center back after he bought Højbjerg and Reguilon and that paying Bale an insane amount of money. Which, to be honest, he could have probably used his weekly wages to buy an actual like decent defensive a center back. And I mean, yes, Joe Rodon is a good center back, but he doesn't play him.
He's going to go through growing pains as well, because when he makes one mistake, then he won't play him for the next 6 games. So
yeah, I mean, that's the problem.
Yeah,
he's a young kid, and I think Jose needs to build Rodon's mentality and needs to play him more often. I mean, dress him down in the locker room. I don't care. Fucking do the Alex Ferguson, throw a blow dryer at him. I don't care, but still play the kid, because I mean, he has a lot of potential and he could probably do much better than the current players being played now. And as much as I love Davinson, as much as I want him to succeed and become the next John Stones, I don't see it happening right now. Yeah, I mean, it's very frustrating with this club. Harry Kane, he's been playing well. Son Heung-min, very good player. I mean, he played well, but we just can't see anything. And in the Europa League, you have like Lucas Moura, Carlos Vinicius, Gareth Bale, and Dele Alli all tearing this like Europa League up.
Yeah.
But yeah, like they destroyed Wolfsburg, but that was it.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough.
Wolfsburg doesn't have.
Yeah.
Wolfsburg isn't a tough opposition. they don't have like a good defense or offense, so we didn't have
Wolfsburger
our
AFC, namely from the Austrian league, not
yeah.
Wolfsburg from Germany, for our
Oh, thank you.
viewers slash listeners.
So like you didn't have world class forwards showing Tottenham's defensive flaws,
Mm-hmm.
but they still made mistakes and they still like nearly conceded many goals that they shouldn't have.
Yeah.
But Hugo Lloris did pick up some slack in that manner.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but I see this going either way for Tottenham.
They do really good or really bad, pretty much.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This might be the lowest finish they've had in a long, long time. They 2019 season, 2020 season, they did sixth. But anytime like before that, they were always finishing top four, and then they slowly went down. Like 2016, they were second. They almost won the league. Actually, they almost won a
against
trophy.
Leicester.
Yeah. No, against like
Yeah, they were second place against Leicester. I remember that because
no, Chelsea.
they were also
Oh wait,
second.
2014.
Yeah, but they weren't.
they were.
They weren't close to Leicester, but they were the only team in contention, and then they drew against the team, and then Leicester won.
Oh yeah.
But I mean,
But like, they just Tottenham. I don't know what's wrong with them. I honestly don't know what's wrong with them. It's not looking good. They've always been a mid-table team. They've always been a mid-table team, if you think about it.
mm-hmm.
But like, these were the days with Sunderland and Swansea in the Premier League.
Yeah, that's fair. Sunderland till I die, though, for real.
Oh, honestly. But like now, like these teams used to be in the Premier League when Tottenham was finishing top 5.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't see Tottenham finishing top 5 any time soon.
Yeah, at the very least, for Tottenham fans, Arsenal's in 11th, and they're not doing any better.
Oh, yeah.
But like, there are plenty of teams that are struggling. But I mean, yeah.
But the problem is Arsenal has better form than we do right now.
Mm-hmm.
And Arsenal barely have. Arsenal have gotten 4 points from their last 5 matches, where Tottenham has gotten 3. And it's just upsetting. They're slowly inching towards us.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels like Jose is I don't know what's wrong with Jose.
Yeah. I mean,
This is my Tottenham rant.
it could be a long-term project for Jose. It could be Jose out in the summer. That's only up to Daniel Levy and ownership. But like, if I'm Daniel Levy and I'm hiring Jose Mourinho, and it looks like Jose's bought into contributing to this project for long term, because say he turns the ship around in a year, it's a project where it solidifies Jose as one of the top managers ever. Because not only did he win with a smaller club financially in Porto, and then he goes to Inter Milan and wins the Champions League. Then he goes to Real Madrid, gets to good clubs, gets to Manchester United. Then he gets to Spurs after he failed at Manchester United. And maybe he's not doing well now, but this project, especially where he has limited funding, would really solidify his case. So if Daniel Levy's in on Jose, then Jose's in on this club as well. But like, you don't know if the players are in as well. But there's complexes like that for every team. Like, you look at Southampton at 14th place with Ralph Hasenhüttl. They had 29 points when they were first in the league. Now they're at 30 points after nearly like 10 match days. It's pretty upsetting for a Southampton fan if you.
They're in worse form than Sheffield, I feel.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I mean, is there a? I gotta take a look at this form table, but it's very disappointing.
Mm-hmm.
For a lot of these teams.
Yeah.
The only like actual team that must be pleased right now has to be Man City, I feel. Being that they've actually won every single game since however long.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, absolutely. But I mean.
But
yeah, go ahead.
I'll be honest. I'm reading the form table right now. tell you the worst like five.
Mm-hmm.
Arsenal are in 16th on the form table. Spurs 17th, Sheffield 18th, Liverpool 19th, and Southampton in 20th.
Yeah.
And all of these teams, bar Sheffield United,
Mm-hmm.
are nowhere near the relegation zone. Um, place wise,
Yeah.
points wise, and actually points wise as well.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the end of the season, and I think these teams just aren't really. They've let off the gas,
Yeah.
except for actually Arsenal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I mean,
Arsenal are
Premier League's competitive as always. I mean, Man City's at 62 points to probably run away with the title, but Champions League places up for grabs, Europa League places up for grabs, and struggling Tottenham, Everton trying to get into the mix. But I mean, it's huge discussions. We'll get to it next time. I just really want to touch on the Liga NOS as we always do. Give it a quick shout out because it's a really deserving league to touch on. Camilo's an expert in that
honestly.
in some respects, and then we'll finish out the show with our Champions League predictions for the second legs, which will be like in a week or two from now. So that'll be fun. But just looking at the table, even in the Liga NOS, I mean, Sporting's won 4 of their last 5. They're ahead of Porto, but I mean, Porto's doing well in the
10
Champions
points.
League. I mean, what's been different for this squad?
I think the thing for me, I'm just gonna put my little advice or my opinion on this. Porto have to juggle between Champions League and Liga NOS, and I could see that as a problem for their coach. I cannot pronounce, and they just tied with Sporting right before this recording, which is a big. If they won that game, I feel like it would have been a big confidence booster for the entire squad. But they didn't. So I think the only thing Porto needs to do now is just play perfectly in Liga NOS. But I think to the Porto higher ups, getting Champions League, getting that Champions League dough might be a little more important than Liga NOS. So I could still see them drop points here, and I could see Sporting run away with it, with only really like Braga to actually try and fight them.
Yeah, I mean, what's interesting
'Cause,
about Sporting's form is they haven't lost a game all season. They've drawn 4 times. It's the only time they've lost points.
Yeah.
So.
That's the thing. I mean, they're not really dropping points. Whereas you have teams like Porto and Braga who haven't really been performing as well.
Yeah.
Even Benfica. Actually, especially Benfica, I could say. And even in the Europa League as well with Benfica losing to Arsenal after they were ahead. Which is just unfortunate. And Arsenal isn't in a good run of form. So I think it's just very disappointing for most of the bigger clubs except for Sporting, really, in Liga NOS. But on the bottom of the table, you do have Maritimo and Boavista possibly going down. Which is they ended last season 11th and 12th place.
Yeah, what's just an interesting little tidbit about Maritimo is same like Maritimers, like Marine AFC, a team 8th division team that Tottenham played. So a similar squad name for.
And we beat them so well. We were some of the best team. Okay.
Yeah, but it's just an interesting little tidbit. Not that it relates to anything of their form or anything at all, but yeah, pretty interesting to see. Rio Ave, as I mentioned earlier, in 9th place. Some great volley prospects, namely, of course, Jan Oblak and Ederson Moraes. But yeah, plenty of things to touch on for Liga NOS. Porto looks like they could hold on to that second Champions League place. If not, Braga's right behind them in 3rd. That would be a Europa League spot. So I would see them getting European qualification. Depends how far they go. Yeah. Either way, the Champions League bag is huge compared to Europa League for smaller.
I don't see
smaller revenue clubs, but we'll see. I mean, honestly, yeah.
I'm not sure what the qualification for the next conference, Europe super conferences, but I could see Benfica getting in there if
Mhm.
fourth place gives you a super conference or a what's it called, the Europa Conference.
Mhm.
I could see Benfica getting in there
Yeah.
possibly,
Well, yeah, that'd be huge.
but
That's for sure.
yeah, a lot of these teams have just it's not as competitive of a league as the other five, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, just
In general.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, just move on quickly to the end here because we really only have one more round of content because it's just going to be our picks, maybe a little bit touching on what we said at the beginning of the episode, but it would be looking at the head to the second legs of the round of 16 in the Champions League. Of course, we
Let's
gotta
go. Okay.
the formatting, of course, of the games is a little bit different. Whereas instead of PSG and Barcelona playing first with Liverpool and Leipzig, get to stick with Liga Nos and it's Porto and Juventus to open up the set of games on March 9th. They lead in the aggregate, but they'll be away from home. Any goals would be huge for Porto, and do you think they pull through against Juventus?
I see. I see them pulling through. I'll tell you why.
Mm-hmm.
There is one away goal that Juventus scored that it was unavoidable.
Mm-hmm.
But Porto, they play if they play very defensively, maybe they somehow counterattack. I'm not too sure about like their squad and all, so I'm not. There's much speculation with
Mm-hmm.
most of my answers.
Yeah.
I could see Porto coming away with it, uh, with a goal,
Mm-hmm.
one goal. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, that's all you
uh,
need.
yeah, or even just tying the game,
Yeah, because
1-1.
that away goal would be huge for them, that's for sure. Because
Yeah,
say Juventus gets a goal, one goal, they win on the away aggregate. So I think Porto's definitely going to try to get an early goal like they did in the first game. They maybe sit on it. I mean, it'd be huge for them, and we're both rooting them for them.
yeah. And
Who
I
would
mean,
it
if
be?
you have you play Oliveira and Uribe,
Mm-hmm.
more defensively
Yeah.
and possibly like counterattack, uh, with just the strikers,
Mm-hmm.
then I could see them coming away with it.
Yeah.
It's just gonna be a difficult matchup. That's the only thing.
Yeah, because we talk about
It's a big
yeah,
team.
we talk about how Juventus has been struggling, but they still have the quality if they figure out a way. So I mean,
Yeah,
yeah. So we criticize
but
them, but they still have a really a more dominant and more overwhelming chance to beat Porto than Porto does. But
yeah, but
Juventus,
when you do think about it, one of these teams has a much more experienced man.
yeah, but I giving it to Porto any day. I don't care about the amount of money
Yeah,
the team
yeah.
has. I don't care how Ronaldo can change a game. 'Cause
No, yeah, like
I think Porto has. I was watching their game and just watching their defensive discipline. How are you gonna break through that? How are you gonna break through that low block? I don't think they will.
Pepe is honestly he's secure.
Yeah, Pepe brings not only European experience, but he brings in Champions League winning experience with Real Madrid.
Yeah,
He's just a reliable defender. He's aging, but he's still a reliable play, and I just think it's great
but
to
you know
see him
who else is
center
aging?
up that defense. Go ahead.
You know who else is aging?
Mm.
Lionel Messi,
Yeah.
and he's still doing bits. I
Mhm.
mean, you can't really see as well with Asian defenders
Mhm.
like how good they're doing, but because with like an attacker, you'll have goals, assists, but obviously you have like tackles and stuff, defenders, but you can't really record positioning.
Yeah.
But Pepe's he's been very good, and I think he probably brought a good atmosphere to the Porto team.
Mhm. No, yeah. I mean, that's gonna be huge for them. And you look at a team with maybe experience that'd be Sevilla with their midfield, of course, with Rakitic, Papu Gomez coming into that midfield. Down one goal in aggregate. Dortmund's up 3-2. They play at the same time on March 9th. I might flip flop on my prediction to be honest because I was heavily favoring Sevilla after Dortmund's poor form in the league. But mentioned the great point about their aging core in Sevilla and how young and fast and quick Dortmund's lethal counterattack could be. I mean, I could see them getting maybe 1 or 2 goals and finishing the game up. I mean, finishing up the series. I mean, what do you think?
I'm still gonna go with Dortmund. They do have that one away goal that that could see the demise of Sevilla.
Yeah.
Due to the fact that like Sevilla is playing away now,
Mm-hmm.
it kind of brings a very interesting attacking motivation to them to get off on a good foot early.
Yeah.
But I don't see that happening because
Yeah.
I mean Dortmund still has a very good defense.
Yeah, they don't. I think they have Manuel Akanji and then this other center back. I don't remember his name, but sorry to him. But yeah, Axel Witsel obviously out with the torn Achilles. But they still have a great rounded out depth in that center midfield position with Thomas Delaney and Emre Can being a mainstay in that midfield position with Axel Witsel. So I do see them pulling through a result. But you just mentioned Messi earlier. He'll be playing on March 10th with Barcelona
That is my mother's birthday.
down in the trenches on your mother's birthday. They'll be
Down
playing,
in the trenches.
They'll be playing an away match, which is kind of tough because PSG won their first match. How do you expect Barcelona to win their second? And PSG won it away from home. So they get 4 away goals, meaning you're going to have to match those 4 away goals at the very least. And then at least not concede. And if you concede 1 or 2, then you just got to keep going and going and going. And I don't see Barcelona finding their way back out of this in their second leg.
I think Ronald Koeman is going to have a very bad time. That's all I'm going to say. I think in a year, or at the end of the season, he's not going to be having a good time.
Yeah, he was.
He's let many trophies slip already.
Yeah, he was a coach that could have been not only coaching in the World Cup with the Netherlands with a great young core, De Ligt, Van Dijk, Depay up front, and then you have De Jong. Instead, he went to Barcelona, and of course, has a great YouTube channel, Sky Sports Retro, coincidentally uploaded a video of him as coach of Everton, saying, "Oh, well, they have Messi. It's the easiest job in the world to coach a team with Messi in it." And apparently, it's not for him. So, I don't think it gets any easier from here, and I see PSG just pulling away with it easily. But in a game,
Neymar's still injured, I assume.
yeah. And,
it's very unfortunate for him. You do feel bad for the guy. But I do expect another Mbappe, just not hat trick, but Mbappe to play insanely again.
Yeah. I mean, looking towards Liverpool-Leipzig, that's probably one of the few ones that are kind of undecided because while Liverpool got a 2-goal lead in their aggregate, they will be playing at home at Anfield, and obviously that's a tough match. I mean, Atletico, even with no fans, beat them at Anfield, but Leipzig was a team that we thought, oh, okay, they could go and steal a result. While they lost Timo Werner, they've been able to coach that team really well with Julian Nagelsmann, but I don't know, I'm kind of on the fence with that.
They're in second place.
Yeah.
The biggest problem is probably Liverpool's form. It seems like Alisson Becker switches to a whole different goalkeeper when he was playing against Leipzig the first time, versus just his season. These last few results in the Premier League. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly
it's honestly unpredictable.
Yeah, I can't make a concrete decision about it, but if I had to pick, like, if you're basing it on current form, you're taking Leipzig. And you take them to get 2 goals away from home, maybe. And then if Liverpool gets 1, I don't know, because at that point you'd be matched up and that would go into extra time. But I don't know. They don't really have like the same scoring power that they had from last year, but they're still just such a great side. So it's tough.
I'd see Liverpool still like winning this just by away goals, just by aggregate. I think they'll probably lose like what a voice crack. They'll probably lose like 2-1 though.
Yeah. Or we'll chalk it up, I guess. will put that in as a Liverpool going through, even though it's probably the most indecisive pick we have on it. But moving
Yeah.
on to one for myself that I will not be indecisive about would be Real Madrid versus Atalanta in the Santiago Bernabeu. And I'm picking Atalanta. March 16th, they'll play at 4 o'clock. I mean,
That is not my birthday.
yeah, yeah. And if Atalanta doesn't go down a man in the 17th minute, granted, if I say this, they might get a red card in like the first minute or something crazy like that. But I don't know. I see them just imposing their will on Real Madrid. I think they get the first goal, and then I think they keep going from there. They get their lead, and then they learn from what they did against PSG, and they'll defend, defend, defend. And I don't think Real Madrid has the offensive power to come back that they showed in the first leg, where they couldn't get finishing, and only their left back on his weak foot could get a goal. So
Yeah.
I'm still 100% putting money down on Atalanta, and I think they'll get the victory, and I think they'll pull through to the quarterfinals.
I agree. I agree completely.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, then we got Man City versus Munchen. Let's just speed run the next two.
Yeah.
Yeah, Munchen Gladbach. Man City win this
Yeah, I mean,
10 times over.
I love watching Mönchengladbach in the group stages, beating Real Madrid and getting results against Shakhtar and Inter, but I can't side with them against this Man City squad. Backline's just too strong, and they're just so great at the moment. Again, 20 match win streak rather in all competitions, and then even more unbeaten run. So
Next, you have Bayern versus Lazio. Lazio. Bayern. Yeah.
yeah, that's goes without being said. I mean, Lazio will be away from home, so like if they the big problem is, of course, even if they got 3 goals and tied the aggregate, I don't even see them getting to like 3 goals. So like maybe they get 1 or 2, but then Bayern's gonna score high off the press with them. So I mean, there's no coming back from it. Bayern's gonna get this one.
I mean, it's Chelsea versus Atletico. Judging just by Tuchel and his coaching right now, I think this is going to Chelsea. I don't even see Tuchel trying to get Chelsea to defend. I see Chelsea salvaging another goal without Atletico Madrid even trying to make another goal.
Yeah, that's an interesting point to make, because you could see Chelsea come, because like Tuchel's tried playing a 3-4-3, sometimes 5-3-2. He's played a 4-3-3, and he's really been confident with a 3-4-3 with Marcos Alonso and Hudson-Odoi on the right side with Alonso on the left. Now he's kind of switching it up with Hudson-Odoi out of favor, but I think he could definitely go with a really imposing offensive lineup and just try to score. Keep on scoring. Because it's not like, even if Atletico gets one, they're just going to keep trying to defend. And while that away goal is crucial, if Atletico gets one, Chelsea already has one in the bag, and I think they'll be confident in their scoring abilities. So, yeah, I mean, as much as I want Atletico Madrid to pull through and continue in the competition, I mean, I think Tuchel's adaptability has been his biggest asset since coming to the club and be able to experiment. And if something goes wrong, I'm sure he'll be able to change it and fix it up in the locker room. And yeah, I definitely give it to Chelsea, and spitefully, but I think they would be deserving based on Tuchel's management.
Yep. Well, this podcast was actually a lot longer than we expected it to be, or it should have been.
Yeah, I mean, at least longer than the goal hour, but not like we're counting at all. But yeah.
Yeah.
It was great to bring the content to you guys. I mean, thank you to all of our loyal listeners, namely Lil Oatmeal on Twitch, who sometimes tunes in. But quick shout to Lil Oatmeal. That's his username, of course. But I mean,
yeah, it is.
Yeah, Jared Johnston and Camilo Yepes to bring you the goal hour. We're looking for some bi-weekly content, podcasts on Spotify and YouTube. It'll be available. We might switch to weekly once we get our branding graphic logo established. We'll put that up on our podcast database via Spotify and our YouTube page when it is finished for us, and then from there we'll look to plan a more consistent schedule, cover more of the Champions League and all the leagues, because there's nothing better than the beautiful game. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great day, night, wherever you are, and continue to follow us. We'll have our next episode in the coming weeks. Jared Johnston and Camilo Yepes. This was the Goal Hour.